Stadium, Lincoln, Nebraska. A great matchup. Nebraska getting set against number 17, the Wildcats of Kansas State. The Wildcats unbeaten behind a potent big play offense. While on defense, they give up yards reluctantly. For Nebraska, it's been another autumn of unparalleled success. The tremendous running game coupled with a relentless, swarming defense. The Sea of Red entering Memorial Stadium, sellout number 217 in a row. And good evening, everybody. Along with former coach Artie Gigantino, I'm Drew Goodman. We have a great matchup tonight. For Nebraska, 28 consecutive 9-win seasons, 28 consecutive bowl games. Those are givens. The way they judge this program is by national championships. And 2 weeks ago in Seattle, Washington, they announced to the nation they're contenders again.
You know, people just were not satisfied with the way they beat at Akron and Central Florida. But last week, as you said, they made a statement in Seattle. They rushed for 384 yards, gave up only 43. I guarantee you, Drew, at the end of the year, Nebraska will be in contention for the national championship.
And they're being led by a guy who's come back home, Scott Frost, their quarterback. He began his career at Stanford. He's from down the road in Wood River. He was much maligned, booed in fact earlier this year, but he silenced his detractors at the University of Washington.
Well, it's absolutely ridiculous to say this guy got booed. He's playing great right now. He is the director, the engineer of this offense. He is 14-2 as a starter. Tom Osborne told me this week he's playing as good as any quarterback he has coached here at the University of Nebraska.
And that's saying something. Well, on the other side of the coin, Kansas State, they too have had success in the 90s. 4 straight 9-win seasons, 4 consecutive bowl games. They have a new quarterback. Michael Bishop is his name. He's a tremendous athlete. He runs 4.5 in the 40, and legend has it, he can throw the football from one goal line to the next.
Yeah, I'm going to wait and see that one. But right now, he is 27-0 as a starting quarterback. He was 24-0 the last 2 years at Blinn Junior College. Right now, he's 3-0 here at Kansas State. His biggest problem, he's never played in front of a crowd like this. So we'll see how he reacts under the pressure tonight.
I'll tell you what, 27-0 in any league is pretty darn good. Jason Peter and the Huskers getting set. Third-ranked Nebraska, number 17, Kansas State. Oh, the Wildcats of Kansas State, 3-0. Let's check in with the third member of our crew, Greg Bell.
Look for Nebraska to use his ground attack to slice up the defense of Kansas State. Over the last 3 meetings of these teams, they've averaged over 380 yards against Kansas State. Look for Kansas State on the other side to try and find a running game. Over those same 3 meetings, they've only been able to muster up 1 yard in each outing. And Artie, you can remember our Ram days together. Whenever we controlled the running game and the ground, we controlled the outcome.
Yeah, but we didn't have a rushing game like the Cornhuskers do, Greg, believe me. Right now, coming into this game, they're number 1 in the United States in rushing, averaging an unbelievable 407 yards per game.
Well, that'll get it done. Bill Snyder, 9 years now at Kansas State. They've been a terrific team in the 90s, and they own the MAC. They've beaten 3 MAC teams. Tom Osborne, this is year number 25 in Lincoln, Nebraska as the head man. And, of course, the impressive win a couple of weeks ago against the University of Washington. Under Osborne, Snyder has not defeated Nebraska. And for the last 3 meetings, both teams have been in the nation's top 20. Rushing will play a big key in this football game because Kansas State also wants to run the football, and they're number 11 in the nation on the ground. Kansas State won the toss. They deferred. Joe Walker, Chevin Wiggins back deep. This is Wiggins 7 yards deep, and he's going to stay put. So the Huskers will begin at their own 20-yard line. There is Scott Frost. About an hour and a half from here is where he grew up at Wood River High School. He played for his dad there. In fact, his mother, Carol, the assistant coach, the wide receiver coach. And she was quite a decorated athlete.
Yeah, that's an unusual situation to say the least. But the best statistic about this guy, he's 14-2 as a starter here at Nebraska.
And he can run the football as well as throw it. Double tight end formation. The single setbacks him on Green. He gets the call. Big opening. Give him 6, maybe 7. Let's take a look at the offensive line, and it is always great at Nebraska. The pipeline led by 2 All-American candidates, Aaron Taylor and right tackle Eric Anderson. Joel Makovica has put together 2 very good football games, the last couple for Nebraska. Amon Green, the I-back. 2nd down and 3 for the Huskers. Give it to Makovica, and he'll be stopped short of the 1st down. Andre Rowe on the stop, defensive tackle. Here's the even look for the Wildcats. Jerome Evans is 305 pounds. He needs to play well tonight. The linebackers, the strength of this defense. Oaks and Semino are terrific. Jeff Kelly, very active, a junior college transfer in the middle. And Lamar Chapman, the free safety, has to play very well tonight, running the alley against the option of Nebraska.
And look for a quarterback sneak here. They did it 4 times on 3rd and short against Washington.
Well, they hand it off, and Green picks his way, gets 6 yards. He needed 1. 1st down, Huskers.
Well, the one thing when you have a great running attack, you have confidence you can do it at any time in any situation. And again, you're going to see tonight, not only do they run hard in the backfield here at Nebraska, but they block exceptionally well. In fact, they're probably the best blocking backs in the United States.
There's the numbers on Green. He had 129 on the ground against Washington. Makovica added 129. Toss sweep, Green. And Amon picks his way and lunges for 8 or 9. And the pipeline moving him out early.
Well, they're running it to the strong side here behind Fred Pollock and Aaron Taylor. It's a simple pitch play. It's something that allows the tailback Green to look and see where the hole develops. Left guard Aaron Taylor pulls, makes a hole, does a great job. Almost stumbles a little bit, but gets up. That's great balance. I'll tell you, that could have been all the way if he hadn't stumbled, Drew.
I'll tell you what, Artie, I saw Scott Frost throw a block on that play as well. Here's the option. Frost will keep it. He has the corner. And he's got a dozen more at least to the 42-yard line of Kansas State. This is a more confident quarterback than people saw a year ago here in Lincoln.
Yeah, and last week, he ran for 68 yards in the 1st quarter. But what he's going to do on the corner here is make a decision. If no one takes him, Drew, he is instructed to tuck the ball and get up the field. They don't want to pitch the ball unless the quarterback is taken away by a defender.
Power I formation, 2 tights for Nebraska. And now Scott Frost checks off. Option into the boundary. And Frost will keep it again. He pays for it, though he got 4 yards. Monty Spiller, the strong safety, led the charge, number 9.
You know, people don't realize what a physical guy Scott Frost is. He is 6'3", 220. Watch number 9 here, Monty Spiller. He's going to be the alley guy, and he's done a good job of seeing it, and he makes a nice tackle, but he's got to wrap up on that, Drew. You can't bounce off runners here tonight.
Blake comes to the near side. Again, 2 tight ends. Makovica not much in the middle. And it'll set up a 3rd down and about 5 for Nebraska from the 36-yard line of Kansas State. These fullbacks are interesting. Joel Makovica, the younger brother of Jeff, who was a fullback here and a starter during the national championship run. All 3 fullbacks, 1 through 3 for Nebraska, played less than 11-man football in the state of Nebraska in high school.
Well, you know, those 8-man and 6-man teams, they have fullbacks too, so they were able to come here and play well.
They need the 31-yard line. Frost on the option. Oh, a great move. And he'll get it to the 25-yard line. Scott Frost, very, very patient. He let the play develop.
The one thing the Kansas State coaches wanted to do, they wanted to make Frost keep the ball. And when he gets to the corner and no one takes him, he's going to tuck it and get up into the alley. Kansas State is overplaying the pitch and overplaying the dive. They want Scott Frost to keep the ball tonight. And so far, he is keeping it. And so far, he is gaining positive yardage. He's a guy, though, that can beat you. And as we talked about, he had 68 yards in the 1st quarter last week against Washington.
Hand it to Makovica, And he is wrapped up by Travis Oakes, the outside linebacker, the junior from Overland Park, Kansas. He was a third-team All-Big 12 player a year ago. He's a good football player.
Yeah, he was third team last year, and he's one of the co-captains. He's a guy that can play either middle linebacker or outside linebacker. And the thing you gotta love about him, Drew, he's got great football intelligence. He's a productive player that will probably play at the next level someday.
Second down and 10, no gain for Nebraska. Give it to Amon Green. Green could go. He will go. Touchdown, Huskers, no flags. A vintage Nebraska drive, all on the ground.
Yeah, it was a counter play, and they just blew out the Kansas State defenders. And you gotta stop the run against Nebraska. And I don't understand why Kansas State deferred to give Nebraska the ball, because this was a great chance that this was gonna happen.
Chris Brown in to attempt the extra point. Good hold by Ted Retzlaff, and it's 7-0 Nebraska. The drive took 5 minutes and 4 seconds, and Amon Green pounded it in, his 4th touchdown of the year. Lamar Chapman was injured. He came off the field holding his right arm. They can ill afford to lose their free safety, the sophomore from Liberal, Kansas. He's a big part of their game plan.
Yeah, so much of what they're doing is putting the free safety in the middle of the field and running to the so-called alley to tackle the quarterback or tackle the pitch. They cannot afford to have a second teamer play that position, because Chapman got all the work this week, obviously, with the first team.
Gerald Niesman is the man in the middle, back deep. Chris Brown to kick it. 7-0 Huskers. Niesman from the 3. Got an opening. Niesman across the 35. Gets it out close to the 40-yard line. So good field position for Kansas State in their initial possession. A return of 36. Erwin Sweeney knocked him out of bounds.
On the last touchdown now, you're going to see Pollock and Taylor pull over here, and Green's going to run a counter up in there. The best play right now in college football is the counter play, because you get about 600 pounds of beef out in front of the ball carrier. Well executed by that great offensive line of Nebraska.
Too tight for Kansas State in their offense. And a busted play to get going. Michael Bishop lost 4 yards, turned around to hand it off. And Eric Hickson was already gone into the hole, and this was something they were very concerned about. Bishop, in 2 years of junior college football, if you add up all the crowds he played in front of, it might not come out to 70+ thousand as they have tonight in Lincoln. But he has the ability to run with the football, and he can really throw it.
What the Kansas State coaches want him to do is make some big plays on some broken plays, which he didn't do that time.
Look out for quarterback draw here on 2nd and 13 out of the gun. Here he comes, and he is tripped up. Cutting in, Grant Wistrom, the All-American from Webb City, Missouri. Here's the offensive line. Weiner has usually done well against Wistrom in past battles. Jaycox has played very, very well in the month of September for Kansas State. Eric Hickson, a solid running back. Goolsby is back after a foot injury at fullback. They need him as the lead blocker. But the problem is they haven't put it up that frequently this year. Their leading receiver, tight end Justin Swift, and this is a throwing down. 3rd down and 14. Here's the strike, 1st down, midfield. That's not a bad way to begin for Michael Bishop. He got it to 83, Everett Burnett, who hung on, just his 3rd catch of the year.
And that'll be the biggest boost for his confidence tonight. On his first pass, he completed it. But he's got to learn tonight. He's going to probably pay the price after every time he throws a forward pass, because those guys in the red shirts want to knock him down as much as possible and really try to intimidate the junior college transfer.
Hey, Coach, that was a Nolan Ryan fastball. Another collision in the backfield. Goolsby tackled by his quarterback, Michael Bishop, along with Grant Wistrom. Let's take a look at the black shirts. That's what they call the defense here at Nebraska. Defensive line on the right side. You will not find a better pair in college football, trust me, than Jason Peter and Grant Wistrop. All-Americans, both of them. The Mike linebacker in the middle is Jay Foreman, the son of Chuck Foreman, the outstanding running back in the 70s for the Minnesota Vikings. In the secondary, a little bit young, but Ralph Brown, a sophomore cornerback, probably will play in the NFL one day. He is that good.
And if you have a question mark about Nebraska, it's probably the secondary. They've given up a bunch of big plays this year in the passing game, and it's something they've worked very, very hard on these last 2 weeks during the bye.
Second down and 11. Here's the option. Bishop will turn it up. He lost the football. And they're going to say he was down after picking up maybe a yard and a half. Peter in on the tackle with Brian Shaw. Let's go downstairs on a very loud field to Greg Bell. Greg.
Well, I spoke with Ron Hudson before the game started, guys, and one of the things he was concerned with all the JUCO transfer guys he's gotten, the young players he's got starting today, he didn't want them to be overwhelmed by this Nebraska 12th man. As we can see at times, they become extremely loud and wild.
Ron Hudson, the offensive coordinator for Kansas State. Third down and 10. Bishop with time. He's got a complete. Burnett. He could go. He needs a block. Inside the 10, toward the end zone, out of bounds at the 1-yard line. What a play by Burnett. Sweeney saved the touchdown, and there is the strength of the arm of Michael Bishop. If that ball wasn't gunned in there, it's going to be knocked down.
No question about it. And Sweeney getting his first start tonight at one of the cornerbacks is a real freshman. In other words, he's a true freshman. But that is a gun right there by Bishop. And one of the things you got to get out of your receivers is exactly what Burnett's doing here, is run after the catch. He gets 25 yards extra, Drew, after the catch.
An advance of 46 yards, first and goal inside the 1. Hickson behind Goolsby. Hickson takes it, he won't get there. He was stood up by Colt and Chad Kelsey. Also, Mike Brown, the rover, or strong safety if you prefer, was in there.
You know, it's very obvious from this first drive that it's going to be difficult for Kansas State to run the football either on the goal line or down in the middle of the field against the Nebraska defense. They might be better off throwing down here because I think they can get in if they do throw it.
Hickson over the top. Touchdown, Kansas State. Well, a big response from the Kansas State offense. After giving up an 80-yard drive, they drive it 61 yards to perhaps even the game.
Well, it's a jump over the top, and that's what you got to do. But the line does a good job of getting into the legs of the Nebraska defenders. And I'll tell you, last time out against Bowling Green, they were 9 for 9, Kansas State was, inside the red zone. They had 7 touchdowns and 2 field goals. That's a big-time stat, Drew.
Martin Gramatica, and the snap was not handled. The extra point is botched. Well, that was an interesting play. You coached at Cal. I thought we were going to see the Stanford Cal play break out. Where's the band?
Well, you know, Garcia is the holder, but he's also a punter. And what's happened, like in the National Football League, people are questioning whether you should put punters as the holders.
Michael Bishop, he was terrific on the opening drive for Kansas State. Nebraska by 1. Oregon, as both teams try to work their way perhaps toward the Rose Bowl. NCAA football on FX next Saturday at 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 on the West Coast. It's the best game time on cable.
You know, on that last drive, the Nebraska defense going into the game had given up 12 plays in the passing game of 25 or more. Now here on the extra point, what happens is Garcia, the holder, does not see the ball snap. He has got to concentrate on the ball coming through the legs of the center. I think you have to have a backup quarterback or a wide receiver as your holder because punters do not handle the football. And catching a snap and then dropping it on your leg, to me, is not handling it.
Artie, we saw a punter not handle a snap. It cost the Jacksonville Jaguars a football game earlier this year on what should have been a chip shot field goal to win it for Jacksonville. And I couldn't agree with you more, because if you have a backup quarterback, even if there is a botched snap, at least he's used to running around and maybe making a play for you.
That's right, throw the ball or whatever. But people think, special teams coaches think, that because the backup punter doesn't do anything, or the punter doesn't do anything during practice, he can hold for the play schedule.
Dramatica has kicked it to Omaha. They'll have it at the 20-yard line. 6:11 to go in the first quarter. Scott Frost has been very, very good in Lincoln, Nebraska as a quarterback. He has better numbers, in fact, at home than he does on the road. 10-play drive, 80 yards to begin things. And all 10 plays were on the ground for Nebraska. Frost had 4 carries, 29 yards. Amon Green, 4 carries, 47 yards. Here's Amon Green. Tripped up in the backfield. He dives ahead for 1. Good penetration by Semino and also Jeff Kelly at the linebacker level.
That's what you have to do to stop this Cornhusker running attack. You got to get penetration with your defensive linemen and your linebackers. The backs at Nebraska run very hard. They're taught to be aggressive. And you've got to step up like Semino did that time and make the play on the other side of the line of scrimmage, not to allow the back to get going.
2nd down and 9. Kansas State hustles to get lined up. Here's the draw. Green. Jeff Kelly filled the hole. Good looking play by the junior from LaGrange, Texas. Well, let's take a look at our First Plus Financial Conference leaders. Tonight, we take a look at the Big 12 rushing leaders in terms of teams. Nebraska, number 1 in the nation. Kansas State at number 11. 5 teams in the top 15 in the country, and that's old Big 8 football.
That's Big 8, but now it's Big 12, and that's very, very impressive.
3rd down and 8 for Nebraska. Frost will operate out of the spread. Throwing, and he's high, trying to get the football to Chevin Wiggins. So Nebraska will have to punt the football.
Well, one of the trademarks of the Kansas State defense has been pass defense and pass efficiency defense. They've been in the top 20 in the last 4 years in the country in pass defense. Scott Frost overthrew that pass, though.
Jesse Cush, he'll punt the football. He doesn't get many opportunities as good as this offense is. He didn't even punt against Akron in the opener. There's David Allen, a redshirt freshman, back at his own 36. They come after it, and a flag comes in. They roughed him. 37-yard line, Allen the fair catch. But we'll see if it was a 5-yard roughing or a 15. It's a personal foul. Nebraska will get the football right back. Oh, what a big play that is.
You can't give a team like Nebraska opportunities to run the football down your throat. And when you give them fouls like that on 3rd down and 4th down, that's what's going to happen. When you're going to block a punt, you've got to go take the ball off the punter's foot. He gets pushed into him a little bit, but Keith Black could not bring himself under control, and he knocks the punter down. I thought that was an average call by the official. It should have been a 5-yard penalty.
I don't disagree with that. Keith Black was pushed into the punter, and Bill Snyder's team will have to go back out on defense. And the last thing you want playing in Lincoln, Nebraska, is to give the Cornhuskers an extra set of downs. The Huskers, over the last 10 years, folks, 58-2 at Memorial Stadium. And I'll tell you, the 2 teams to beat them in a moment. Here's Frost on the option. He's got a big gap, and he'll have 9 yards. In 1990, Colorado came in here and won. If you recall, Colorado, the AP national champions that year. The next year, Washington won here in Lincoln, knocked off Nebraska. That's their last loss at home. They've won 38 in a row, and Washington won a national championship in '91. So 2 losses in 10 years to 2 national champions. That's not bad.
Not bad, and they've got a built-in advantage here. It's all these great fans that come out and just scream and holler for their Cornhuskers. They do have a home field advantage here in Nebraska. There's no question about it.
Amon Green into the pile, tumbles forward. The last guy up will be Jerome Evans, and he kept his pads low, Artie. And he got 305 pounds into the backfield.
You know, and he missed all of spring practice, Evans did, with a shoulder injury. He's a guy that is the only returning defensive line starter here for Kansas State. He had a big year last year. He had 12 tackles for losses. The coaches are expecting big things out of him. And he, like you said, he is all of 6'6", 305, which is amazing to me that he can get his shoulder pads down and underneath those offensive linemen that are coming to block him.
1st and 10. Here comes Frost on the option. The pitch is lost, but Amon Green fortunately lost it out of bounds. Nebraska will retain possession.
That's one of the few times you're going to see Scott Frost and Green have some fumble on the pitch. He does a good job of pitching, but it didn't look like Green was looking at the football because Frost had been keeping the ball on the last 6 or 7 options so far tonight. So I think Green was a little bit surprised that the ball was flicked to him.
Here's Scott Frost. He had the unenviable task of following Tommy Frazier, who was the prototype for this offense.
Yeah, but last year he had better stats than Tommy Frazier did his senior year. So
here's a QB draw, Frost, and he is tackled by Joe Bob Clements right around the ankles.
Frost brought down on the play. Number 46.
Pickup of about 3 or 4, so it'll set up 3rd and a long 6 for the Huskers. They need to get to the 41 of Kansas State.
You know, it's obvious that Nebraska is coming to this game saying we are going to try to pound the ball at Kansas State's defense. They had some respect for the Kansas State defensive front going into the game. They felt they wanted to come in and really try to run the ball at them.
Slot to the top, out of the gun, Frost. He can run for the 1st down, and he will. He gets a block from Wiggins all the way to the 22-yard line. Lamar Chapman back in the football game, knocked him off his feet, but Scott Frost showed his athletic ability. Nothing in the passing game, he used his legs.
Well, that's called maturity in a quarterback. And this year, or in the last 2 years now, he has not thrown an interception in the last 34 quarters. He doesn't see a receiver down the field, so he takes off down the field. He's pointing the way for a couple of his blockers, and he picks up great yardage. That is great decision-making by a quarterback.
27 yards on the advance. Macavicka and Green give it to Macavicka, the up back. Well, you know you're a fullback. You know what you are? You're like in a shooting gallery. Guys taking pot shots at you from every direction.
And people are bouncing off of him all the time. And like we talked about, he had a bunch of yards last week against Washington, 129. And they want to use him tonight. But one thing Kansas State is saying on their defensive front, the fullback is not going to beat us tonight. They are taking away the fullback plays right now from Nebraska. So you're going to see the ball probably get on the corner a little bit more. But this guy is a tough guy, and I love the way he practiced this week.
Power eye. Macavicka goes in motion. Amon Green. Monty Spiller put a helmet on him, but Green able to fall ahead to the 16-yard line. 3rd down and 5 yards to go for Nebraska.
You know, when you get into a power eye like that, which is 3 backs in the backfield, the Kansas State defenders are putting 9 and 10 guys around the line of scrimmage. And no matter how good you are at running the football like Nebraska is, you got to get out on the perimeter against that kind of front, or you got to try to throw the football.
3rd down and 5. 2 tights. Short side option. He won't get there. Kansas State defended it well. On the outside, Semino, and on the inside, Damian McIntosh. So we'll see Chris Brown, the place kicker for Nebraska. Here is why Nebraska was able to hold on to the football on the roughing penalty to Cush. Let's check in with Greg Bell. He has an update on Cush.
Hey guys, injury update. Cush sprained his right leg on that last kick. Look for him to be back in the game. The trainer said he just twisted his ankle. He might even tape him up so he can get a good plant on that right foot because he's a left-footed kicker.
All right, Greg, and on the field, you don't often see this. The place kicker, Chris Brown, called the timeout. There might have been only 10 players on the field. So we'll step aside for a moment. The Huskers leading the Wildcats 7-6. Drew Goodman, Artie Gigantino, Greg Bell in Lincoln, Nebraska. FX has the X-Files weeknights at 8/7 Central. On Monday, Mulder attempts to rescue Scully, who's been abducted. The X-Files invades the air 5 nights a week at 8/7 Central, only on FX. You've got to watch. I don't know that guy, Mulder. You know him?
No, but it's my favorite program. I love it.
Pay attention to their names then. From 31 yards away, Chris Brown near hash mark. Knocks it through. So it is Nebraska 10 and Kansas State 6. And Nebraska has yet to complete a pass in the football game.
Well, they don't have to if they keep running the ball the way they are. And by the way, Chris Brown, that was his 30th field goal. And he is now, or he is the career holder in field goals for the University of Nebraska. And with this offense, I would think he'd have a few more because they get down and they either score touchdowns or give him an opportunity to kick one through.
He's done a great job in his career in Lincoln. 25 years for Tom Osborne, 245, 49, and 3. And that's truly remarkable. 83% of the time, they come out on top. There's only 6 active coaches who ever have defeated Tom Osborne. That's unbelievable.
That's a great trivia question for people in bars or when you're playing Trivial Pursuit or whatever. But I guessed 4 of them yesterday when I was asked that. But I didn't guess Hayden Fry or Danny Ford. This man, needless to say, his record speaks for itself, but he is truly a great gentleman. In fact, in the press guide this year, there are 13 pages devoted to him. That just goes to show you some of the records and some of the accomplishments that he has had here at Nebraska.
Hey, Artie, they've written a number of books already on Dr. Tom Osborne.
Well, they should. Like I said, he is one of the great guys. And you know what's amazing about him? He took over a great program from Bob Devaney, but he kept it going. And what people don't understand sometimes, it's harder to keep it going than it is sometimes to rebuild a program.
This is Gerald Niesman in the middle. He had a good return last time. He's got another good return. Niesman, open field to the 47-yard line. Chris Brown, the kicker, may have saved Niesman from going the distance. Now he's doing a little Muhammad Ali. Well, 47 yards on the return.
For a junior college quarterback, that's a great return. And Bill Schneider talked about it this morning to us. They thought they might have an edge in special teams. And no one from Nebraska touches him except at the end there. That's a big-time return. But a couple of guys out of Nebraska, got out of their lanes, which created a big return for Niesman.
Michael Bishop says, yeah, I like this. Better field position. Here's the counter tray. Not much doing for Eric Hickson. And despite the success of running the football their first 3 games for Kansas State, a whole different deal running against the Black Shirts. And that will be the final snap of quarter number 1. Nebraska held the football for more than 11 minutes in the first, and they have the lead. Loosened up, you're ready to go.
I'm ready to go, and I tell you, I hope the Nebraska defense is ready to go because, you know, Bishop can make big plays as we've seen so far. He's a very interesting guy that a lot of people compare to a guy by the name of Cordell Stewart, who used to play at the University of Colorado, now in Pittsburgh Steelers.
He is a pretty fair player. 2nd down and 10. Pressure on the outside coming, and they dump it in the flat to Hickson, who could not hang on. Eric Johnson was coming off the edge. He's the weak side linebacker, the will linebacker, if you will, for the Huskers. It'll set up 3rd and 10.
And you know, that was an outside corner blitz that Charlie McBride called. He wants to put pressure on Bishop as much as possible today in passing situations. And one of the things the Kansas State coaches want to do, they want to protect Bishop by calling the pass protection in the huddle tonight instead of allowing him to call it on the line of scrimmage.
3-step drop, and it's knocked down. They're trying to get it to Burnett. Good coverage by Ralph Brown. That's not the guy you want to pick on.
No, Ralph Brown's a big-time player. In fact, he's the first freshman to start at the University of Nebraska first true freshman since World War II. He had Bishop Almont in California, and he's just an outstanding player.
So into the game is James Garcia. He's a very good punter. And he unloads a bomb. He turns it over. This one will get into the end zone. A punt of 54 yards.
First and 10 with the ball on the 20-yard line.
For Kansas State and Garcia. Well, next week on College Football Saturday, it's a quadruple header. Colorado and Oklahoma State will be there, and then in the Pac-10, Stanford will take on Arizona. It all starts with Air Force, Navy, or Southern Miss, East Carolina. That's next week on Fox Sports Net's College Football Saturday. Check your local listings.
How about Oklahoma State today? Just destroying the University of Texas. They've done a great job of coaching down there, obviously.
Colorado went down today to Texas A&M. Amon Green, and he runs into Joe Bob Clemens from Emporia, Kansas. Now, Joe Bob, he should be from Texas, shouldn't he?
Yeah, and you know what? He's a hunter and he's a fisherman, and he walked on in 1995 and got himself a scholarship. He's a tough guy that the coaches just love because he's a go-fast football player with a high motor that just will not take no for an answer. And you got to love guys like that because he came and he made something out of himself at Kansas State.
There's never been a guy named Joe Bob that wasn't tough. Second down and 7. Little waggle for Frost, looking for his first completion. He has it to Sheldon Jackson. Third-team tight end and the best receiver of the tight end group for the Huskers, and that'll be enough for a first down.
Well, one of the things you want to do with Scott Frost is get him on the corner. He's a mobile guy that can run. You're going to see Sheldon Jackson now run across the field as Frost runs the bootleg onto the top of your screen. That's a good job of finding the open receiver. He puts the ball a little bit behind him, but big old Sheldon reaches back and catches it. He had 3 catches against Central Florida for 61 yards this year.
10-6 our score, Nebraska leading. Blocker out in front for Amon Green, but Semino ran around the block and made the play in the backfield. The sophomore from Smith Center, Kansas, the geographical center of the United States.
Well, he's got a center for the ball, I'll guarantee you that. You see the counter play developing here by Nebraska, but Semino, right, number 42, comes up the field, brings himself under control, and makes the hit on Green. That's a good job, and the way to stop the counter is to get penetration, and more penetration, and that's exactly what they did there.
He's a co-captain as a sophomore. That had never happened before under Bill Snyder. Frost, option look, now he wants to throw it. Got a man open. Oh, that's a beautiful play by Travis Oaks. If he doesn't get a hand on the ball, Lance Brown's going to pick up big yardage.
Well, one of the things Frost can do, he's an escape artist. He's a guy with great athleticism, as we all know, but he can escape from pressure, and he will buy you big plays with his feet. He does a nice job of keeping his poise, looking down the field, and then throwing the ball. He's just got to get a little bit more air on that so Oaks doesn't tip it up. But as you said, Drew, it would have been a big play if it had been complete. I think one of the things that has helped Frost in his career was he was under Bill Walsh at Stanford for 2 years, where you're going to quarterback school, so to speak, you know, when you're playing for Bill Walsh at Stanford.
Good friend of yours.
Good friend of mine, good guy.
Joe Bob Clements shaken up. He's helped off the field. Third down and about 11 and a half for Nebraska. They need the 43-yard line. Bill Snyder. He's produced some pretty good defensive players. Chris Canny plays for the Patriots now. He was their number 1 back in April. Brown goes in motion. Frost in a lot of trouble now. He's going to be dumped back at the 24-yard line. Kelly and McIntosh got there as Mike Stoops blitz got Frost on 3rd and long.
Well, you got to blitz him because you don't want him to have time to throw the ball up the field to those big receivers. Mike Stoops has done a great job with this young Kansas State defense. And the one thing you gotta like is that the Kansas State defense has come out and been very, very aggressive so far tonight. They are not playing this game on their heels, so to speak. They're playing it on their toes, going and attacking this Nebraska offense.
David Allen back deep, push. This one's off the side of his foot. Takes a big hop. Allen swarmed under at the 33-yard line, a punt of 46 yards on the big hop, and then a flag comes in at the 31-yard line. There's Mike Stoops. Of course, everybody has heard of Bobby Stoops now with the success he's had as the defensive coordinator at Florida under Steve Spurrier. Brothers, very close. They talk every day.
Well, they should. They
Illegal push in the back on return. 10-yard penalty. Timeout.
They probably exchange films too. But he's a little volatile right there, and you know he's going to get after. But that's what you got to do to be a good defensive coordinator. You got to be part of the game and be enthusiastic.
At home, leading Kansas State 10-6. Glad you're along tonight on FX. Mike Stoops, the defensive coordinator, we saw him jumping around the box for Kansas State. He says, the reason I stay upstairs, I'm too animated to be on the sideline. Michael Bishop hands it off. Eric Hickson, this is the best run of the night for Kansas State. Before that carry, Artie, they had -4 yards rushing. The last 3 years against Nebraska, they have a grand total of 1 yard.
I know what it does, though. It takes a while for an offensive team and a defensive team to get used to the tempo of the game. And Nebraska obviously is very good, but this huge offensive line from Kansas State had to get used to the tempo of the game, and I think they're starting to settle into it right now. By the way, they're the third biggest team in the National Football League right now in the offensive line.
There's a quarterback's draw. Bishop takes a rip. That's Brian Shaw, who blew him a kiss in the backfield. It'll be a loss of a couple. Showed that big offensive line. What conferences do Washington and Jacksonville play in?
Yeah, Washington's in the Big East. I'm not sure about Jacksonville. This is a quarterback counter here, a new play that they put in for Bishop. It's like the tailback counter, where two offensive linemen pull, the quarterback gets the ball out of the shotgun and runs the counter play. Ron Hudson, the great offensive coordinator from Kansas State, put that in to maximize his running abilities.
Big play here, 3rd and 3. Three-step drop, Bishop throwing, and it's knocked away, and it's intercepted by Warfield. He has the sideline. And he'll get it to the 16-yard line, the first turnover of the game. Ralph Brown had the coverage. The old tip drill, Artie.
The old tip drill, it's just bad luck. Here's number 3, Eric Warfield. He comes up to help on the slant pattern. Ralph Brown knocks it away. The ball is up in the air. It's the old tip drill that all defensive backfield coaches use. The ball fell right into Warfield's hands.
Handed to Ahman Green, and he is hit from behind by Jerome Evans. And when Jerome Evans hits you, you're usually done.
You're done, especially when that guy falls on top of you. George Darlington, the secondary coach from Nebraska, loves his defensive backfield right now. The only thing they lack, he says, is experience, and that will come with time. But guys like Warfield, who's a senior, is a great player, but Sweeney and Brown and Peterson, some of the younger players, will really make their mark here in this Nebraska program.
2nd down and 9 for Frost and the Huskers. Matt Davison, the freshman, in motion. Give it to Makovica. No, Frost keeps it. Nowhere to go. Joe Bob Clements back on the field. We've called his name several times tonight. It'll set up 3rd down. And if Kansas State can hold Nebraska to 3 here, that's a moral victory.
Now, I was talking about it before, getting used to the tempo of the game, and that's what's happening up front now for Kansas State. They're used to the tempo of the Nebraska offensive line and the speed of the option, because you can't practice against that, Drew. There's nobody in the Kansas State program that can give the Kansas State defense that look like they're going to see against Nebraska.
Nebraska fairly efficient in the red zone this year. Frost has a screen set up, ball's batted, and it falls harmlessly to the turf. Jerome Evans, 6'6" and 305, got a big mid on it.
The big man out of Waco, Texas, did a great job. But Scott Frost on a screen, Drew, has got to get a little bit deeper. Bill Walsh taught him better than that. He's got to keep floating back to let the defensive line penetrate a little bit more and get more air underneath the football.
There's Brown. Coach's staff said he had to play well tonight. Jerome Evans, and he has played well. Here is Chris Brown, 32 yards away. He's 1 for 1 tonight. Good snap, good hold, and the kick is true. And Nebraska extends their lead to 13-6. They take advantage of Michael Bishop's first interception of the year. Look at that guy in the green shirt. He must not have gotten the message on the dress code here.
He got tickets for free.
Well, Tuesday on Fox Sports Net, don't miss a behind-the-scenes look inside the NFL on NFL Total Access, followed by Hardcore Football, featuring guests Mark Jamora and Bill Romanowski this week. It's NFL coverage like no other network. That's NFL Total Access and Hardcore Football Tuesday on Fox Sports Net. Check your local listings for the times in your area. Drew Goodman, Artie Gigantino, Greg Bell from Lincoln, Nebraska. Brown to kick it deep again. And he has some wind behind him, and the field goal is good. That, folks, was a 75-yard field goal that won't count for any points on the board.
And you know what's amazing? There's not a lot of wind here. He just got the old toe into that baby tonight.
It was a good idea because the last 2 times that he has kicked it to Gerald Niesman, Niesman's almost brought it back the other direction.
Well, like we said, Bill Schneider talked about that. He thought he had a little bit of an edge tonight in the kicking game, and so far he's been right.
Let's take a look at the numbers on Michael Bishop against Northern Illinois. Very good. Ohio, he was pulled, Artie, but it didn't hurt his confidence.
It didn't hurt his confidence. It probably woke him up a little bit.
K-State runs a counter. Hickson makes a good-looking move, and another. He got 9 yards. It looked like he'd lose a couple. Eric Warfield, the free safety, had to make the tackle. And Hickson's not a burner, but that's how he gets his yards.
Yeah, and he missed all the 1996 season with a broken leg. But Ron Hudson and Bill Schneider and the coaches at Kansas State loved this young man because of his determination to come back from an injury. He's a tough guy, and they really want this young guy to have success.
They say his leg is so scarred, it's almost nauseating to look at. And he got enough for a first down. 2 yards. He needed 1. Eric Johnson, credit for the tackle defensively for Nebraska.
And, you know, against Bowling Green a couple weeks ago, he had a career night. He rushed for 163 yards and 1 touchdown, which was his best career number in rushing yardage, you know, throughout his career. So, you know, he's off to a good start so far this year if he can stay healthy.
He's a senior, though. They are attempting to get him a medical redshirt year for last season. That would be a big plus. They're very deep at running back. Marlon Charles and Mike Lawrence, 2 other tailbacks for Kansas State. 1st and 10. Bishop. And this one's high and away, trying to get it down the field to number 80, Darnell McDonald. Ralph Brown was in his hip pocket.
He had some big-time pressure that time by the front from Nebraska. And you're going to see the big offensive lineman, Ryan Young, number 76, push Kelsey past him. But Kelsey does a great job of coming back into Bishop. And like we've talked about, they want to, the Kansas State defensive front, keep hitting Bishop legally as much as possible. Because if you keep getting hit as a quarterback, you don't want to throw too many passes down the field.
There's Foreman. Look at the play clock. The reason we're showing this is Kansas State wants to use as much of it as possible to shorten the game. Out and up, this is up for grabs, and it's in and out of the hands of Mike Brown, the Rover. It'll set up 3rd down. He should not have thrown that ball. Michael Bishop did not see the over-the-top help from Mike Brown.
And that's one of the problems with the junior college quarterback. Sometimes in junior college, they just run around and throw the ball up the field. But he threw that ball to a Nebraska player. He didn't throw it to his own guy. He's got to make a smarter decision on things like that. And again, that was the biggest concern that the coaches from Kansas State had going into the game tonight.
Burnett to the top is the widest outside the slot. QB draw, and that play ended in a hurry. Bishop ran into Eric Johnson. And Kansas State will have to punt it to the Huskers.
Well, talking to Charlie McBride yesterday, the defensive coordinator from Nebraska, he said, we expect Kansas State to run a lot of quarterback draws, a little bit of option. Their linebackers were ready for it.
And a quick punt by Garcia to a trio of Huskers. And this is Bobby Newcomb, who's a quarterback, a freshman. They're going to be cheering for number 12 for 3 more years because he is the heir apparent at quarterback. The player of the year in the state of New Mexico last year. Bobby Newcomb.
Yeah, he's also a parade All-American, and he's a guy that went and asked Coach Osborne, can I contribute on this football team? And he discussed it with Coach Osborne, which is why they moved him to receiver and the kick returner instead of redshirting him. But again, in practice the other day, I saw him. He's an exciting guy.
Amon Green straight ahead, not much doing. Let's check in with Greg Bell.
Hey guys, one thing that we're seeing from Kansas State's defense that's a little different than what we saw in Washington and a few other losses to Nebraska is that they're getting off the ground quick from the cut boxes. Ernie, we talked about it yesterday, Arnie. They're just not going to let these guys cut them and stay on the ground. They're getting up off the ground, they're wrapping up, and the coach loves it. He told them stay with that, and Nebraska won't go anywhere.
2nd down and 9. Greg, thank you. Nebraska, little counter, Green bust through there and then lost his footing as Jeff Kelly was closing.
What Nebraska's got to start doing, I think, is go back outside and get on the perimeter. Because like we've talked about, inside right now, the Kansas State defensive front is doing a nice job of stopping the inside, quote, power running game. Nebraska is half power, half finesse. The finesse part comes in when you get on the perimeter.
2 tights on 3rd and 5. Option to Frost, late pitch Green. And a good open field tackle by Dimitri Denmark. And he stopped him on Green short of where he needed to get.
And that's a little bit of a mismatch because Denmark's only 5'8", 175 pounds. He comes up and does a real good job, and he goes and tackles the big guy low and just knocks him over. He didn't wrap up. It wasn't picture perfect, but Drew had got the job done.
Tom Osborne's going to go for it on 4th and 3. Kind of in that gray area already at the 35-yard line on the plus side of the football field.
And this year they're 4 for 7 on 4th down when they go for it.
And Kansas State calls a timeout. We'll do the same. 5:47 to go before halftime. 13-6 Nebraska. College football in this country. 13-6 Nebraska leading. We're in Lincoln, the state capital. 217th consecutive sellout. 4th down and 3. Frost on the option, has the corner, and he has a 1st down at the 30. Semino made the tackle. They ran the option to the wide side of the field. That's what we were talking about during the commercial break.
Vintage Nebraska offense that time. Guys getting chopped down, quarterback keeping the ball.
5-yard penalty at the end of the run. 1st down.
John Laurie telling us about the face mask. So they'll tack on some more yardage to the gain.
Well, you knew it was going to be an option now. He's going to take the ball and he's going to get on the corner. He's going to get a block up in the alley here. He's going to knock a Kansas State defender down. But watch the lineman pull. Watch big old number 64, John Zacchaeus, get around the corner and knock somebody down. And now the face mask, and that was a good call by the official that time. That's what happens in options sometimes. Defenders reach for the guy with the ball.
Here's the option, near side of the field. Frost cuts it back. Still going, 7-yard line before Jeff Kelly grabbed him. Move the chains again. 1st and goal, Huskers. Josh Hester, the center, had a good block, number 59.
Here's an end zone look, but you're going to see Frost when he gets over to here and he makes a decision, what great vision he has as to where he wants to go. But you also see guys right here chopping people, getting them on the ground. The key to being a great option team is to chop people and knock them down in the perimeter, and that's what they're doing right now.
Two tights, Green behind Makovic in the eye. Give it to Makovic. He'll get two. Darren Howard, number 49, will get credit for the initial hit for Kansas State.
That was also a good play that time by Jeff Kelly, the middle linebacker. He's a guy with a lot of talent and not a lot of experience for this Kansas State defense, but he's a load in there, man. He's 6 foot. He's about 245 pounds. He's a good football player.
Second down and goal at the 5. Frost looking to cut it back. End zone, touchdown. I can't tell you enough about how much more patient Scott Frost is running the option than he was a year ago.
And here's a look at it through the eyes of the defender. But Scott Frost is the man with the eyes. He sees the end zone and leaps himself into it. This guy really knows how to engineer this option offense.
Chris Brown pounds it on through. 20-6 Nebraska with 4:33 to go in the first half. This guy is a remarkable kid. He's a tremendous student. Well over a 3.5 in finance. He's on his way to another 100-yard football game rushing. He was a free safety at Stanford. They played him as a starter at free safety some.
I know, we played against him when I was at the University of California in 1994. He was the quarterback then, but the year before, as a freshman, he was a quarterback and a free safety. And Bill Walsh, Mr. West Coast offense, put an option in for this guy to run. This guy is an athlete, and he could play free safety also on a lot of defensive football teams. But the one thing that Tom Osborne kept saying to me about him is he understands the offense now. People a year ago, I think, got a little impatient with him because they weren't winning by big numbers and they lost 2 games. But he said the man now understands the offense. He's had a year to understand it and to execute it. And right now, Scott Frost is playing as good as any quarterback that they've had here at the University of Nebraska.
Brown again really pounds the football. And out of the end zone, Neesman catches it, puts a knee down, and it's 1st and 10 at the 20 for Kansas State. Now, you mentioned Tom Osborne, 25 years at the helm of this tremendous program. We'll sit down and have a chat with Dr. Tom Osborne at halftime. We'll check scores from around the country, and we'll also give you our view of the Heisman Trophy through the first month of the season or so.
Yes, who is really the best player in the United States?
Well, there's a lot of good ones, I know that. Kansas State needs to respond offensively. They scored on their initial possession, and they go backwards there. Mike Rucker, 6'6" and 250 pounds, and he got in the kitchen of Eric Hickson. And he might have stolen a couple of appliances.
Well, he really did. And Rucker's really a starter for this defensive unit here. In fact, he's the only non-starter, Rucker is, that has a black shirt, which is the jersey that the defenders wear at the University of Nebraska in practice on defense. He is considered by the coaches a starter, even though he's listed as a backup to Chad Kelsey.
Delay to Hickson, tackle from behind. The great speed of the Nebraska defense. Grant Wistrom. An Outland Trophy, Lombardi Trophy candidate, as long as we're mentioning trophies. Charlie McBride, he's been in Lincoln forever.
He's been in Lincoln forever, and he's been here for 21 years and 16 as the defensive coordinator. And he said to us, Lindstrom and Peter are 2 of the best players he's ever coached. In fact, Jason Peter is the best defensive tackle he's ever coached. And that's really saying something.
There have been some great ones here. 3rd and 12. Quarterback counter. Michael Bishop gets a few, not nearly enough. And you talk about the success of the Nebraska program. I think it begins with the coaching staff and the continuity they have under Dr. Tom Osborne.
Well, if you add this all up, it equals 137 years of experience, including Tom Osborne here at the University of Nebraska. That really tells you something. And that guy, Charlie McBride, is a big part of it. Continuity equals success in college football today.
Garcia, another tremendous punt. Chevin Wiggins trying to shake free, and he gets to the 37-yard line for the Huskers. Well, check out NYPD Blue weeknights at 9, 8 Central right here on FX. Monday, a man who planned a pawn shop robbery claims his former cellmate committed the crime. It's an episode you don't want to miss. NYPD Blue following the X-Files. 5 nights a week at 9, 8 Central. Experience what everyone's been talking about. I like that show.
That's my second favorite show, and that's one of my goals in life, is to be there and drive in the car with Sipowicz and the guys. Would you like to do that?
I'm along with you. Sipowicz is your kind of guy, Artie.
Yeah, he'd be a linebacker coach, I think, or an offensive guard.
The other guy's too slick for you. Give it to Correll Buckhalter, excuse me. And he gets about a yard or two. He's a true freshman from Mount Olive, Mississippi. 6'2" and 210. They've never had a recruit out of Mississippi before, Buckhalter.
No, and he's had 177 yards so far this year. But he fits the type of running back that they like here at the University of Nebraska. He's 6'2", he's 210, 215. He's a big guy like the rest of the running backs that have been here in the past and are here now.
Nebraska leading 20-6, inside 2 minutes to play in the first half. Frost has a man downfield in Chevin Wiggins, but he ran out of bounds, and pretty good coverage by Cephas Scott. Anyhow, 20-6, Nebraska leading. We are in Lincoln at Memorial Stadium, sellout number 217 in a row with Greg Bell and Artie Gigantino. I'm Drew Goodman, and we are pleased you're along as always tonight on FX. Nebraska trying to go to 4-0. They're number 3 in the country. Kansas State 3-0, ranked number 17. A couple upsets today in the Big 12. Texas A&M went to Boulder and won.
Big one for them, and like I said, I just can't say enough about that Oklahoma State team, just what they did to Texas today and what they've done all year.
Max blitz coming, screen set up. Buckhalter, can he escape? No. Great pursuit play by Damian McIntosh. How about a 290-pounder out in the flat?
Yeah, he did a nice job of chasing that one down, and he is a big guy also. Like you said, he's 6'4", he's 290, but the one thing about him, he's a versatile guy. He started a game this year against Northern Illinois on offense. He's a guy that can play on either side of the ball, and he showed his real athleticism on that play.
Well, on 4th down, Kansas State calls timeout because they want the football with some time to operate. 1:31 left in the second quarter. The Huskers by 2 touchdowns. And Buckhalter limping off. And we'll check on his condition in a moment. Kansas State had a touchdown on their opening drive, botched the extra point. Since then, they have not done much. Bill Snyder, 58-36-1. Folks, when he took over this program, they ended the 80s 136-1. Since that time, they're 57-26-1. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing, but the only problem with him, he has put a lot of pressure on coaches around the country. He and Gary Barnett at Northwestern have done such a sensational job, and especially Bill Snyder, it's made other people, like, you know, some of the schools that fired coaches this year, very, very impatient.
Look at this short list. Teams with 9 wins or more each of the last 4 seasons. Pretty good company. We got 2 tonight.
Yeah, and who would have thought, like we talked about 7 or 8 years ago, that Kansas State would be on that list?
Nobody.
Nobody, but of course Nebraska, and this guy, everybody would say Tom Osborne would have been there.
You just penciled them in for at least 9. 9's unsatisfactory. Jesse Cush to punt. David Allen, the freshman, back at his own 25-yard line. And this is a great punt by Cush. High and deep, and he lost it. It's picked up by Nebraska. Another turnover, and they're in great shape with plenty of time. It was grabbed by the man who snapped the football, Brandon Drum.
You can't give Nebraska opportunities. That's what they want to do. They've had a great turnover margin here, and it's going to continue tonight.
Coach, off a left-footed kicker, different spin.
Totally different spin, but you got to practice that. Go give somebody in Manhattan a scholarship that's a left-footed punter to come in and kick the ball to him, so you get the detail of the ball spinning correctly. And believe me, being an old special teams coach, it is very different, that spin.
Two tights, Green behind Makovica, 120 left, ball at the 22-yard line. Frost in trouble, gets it away, he threw it up for grabs, intercepted by Cephas Scott. Cephas Scott with his first pick of the year. And that, a costly error by Scott Frost.
Well, it's his first interception in like 36 quarters now, and it's certainly the first one this year. Nice job by Scott of seeing the ball, but it was a very poor pass that time by Scott Frost. Nebraska obviously trying to loosen it up by throwing it on first down. Frost does a good job of getting out on the corner, but he gets tackled in the backfield, and that ruins his velocity in terms of throwing the football. And obviously, he's very disappointed.
Pressure came from Dyshot Carter on a corner blitz. Kansas State backed up, goes on the ground. Hickson gets about 5 yards. Eric Johnson made the tackle. A reminder, coming up at halftime, we'll check out all the scores from around the country. We'll have an update on the Heisman Trophy race, and we'll also converse with head coach Tom Osborne of Nebraska. They're letting the clock run inside 45 seconds. Again, it's Hickson. Subtle little move. And he was unable to take Eric Warfield out. The safety broke down on the corner and made a good play in the open field.
And what Bill Snyder is saying here is, hey, we're satisfied to be behind only 20-6. We don't want to make another mistake by throwing the football, put too much pressure on Bishop. Let's just get out of here with a 14-point deficit. So I think that's the right thing by Bill Snyder. Go in, make some adjustments at halftime. You have the ball when you come out, and see what happens in the second half.
And Michael Bishop, though, 2 of his first 4 plays were botched. He turned the wrong way on a handoff and had to improvise. When he threw the football, especially on the first couple of drives, he was right on the money. So he was not that dazzled or frazzled, if you will, by the crowd here.
Well, sometimes footwork and sometimes remembering where you're going when you're the runner as a quarterback is harder than just dropping back and throwing the football. Because I'll guarantee if you watched him as a junior college quarterback, he just dropped back and rocketed the ball to the opening man, which is what you kind of do at a junior college level, because coaches don't have the time or the facilities to obviously coach players like they get coached at Nebraska or Kansas State. But I am very impressed with his arm so far. And I don't know if he can throw it 100 yards, but he sure as heck can throw it 50 and on a bullet, too.
I'll tell you, the story goes that he threw the ball 93 yards messing around in practice one day. And I don't care if they're off by 20 yards. That's some kind of arm.
That's some kind of arm, and he's a baseball player, too. He's a third baseman and a catcher. I'll bet you he's gunned down a lot of guys at second base in his day.
And he was not available for spring practice. Last spring, he was at Independence Community College, so he's really had about a month in this offense.
Yeah, and you can't miss spring practice if you're a quarterback and expect to play great.
27 seconds left. Hickson with the football. He's going to lose a bunch. Ralph Brown, the corner, coming up and supporting. And now it's 4th down. And Nebraska calls another timeout. And at the very least, they have an opportunity to A, set up a return, or B, come after the punt.
Yeah, now Nebraska sometimes does that. They will go after the punter. Now, the danger in doing that is you have a chance to rough them. I'm not sure what Coach Osborne will do here, but either way, Drew, he ought to end up with pretty good field position, and 1 first down or 1 long completion could end up being at least a field goal try before you go in for the halftime.
20 seconds to go. The Huskers leading by 14. Do you think if you and I put football pads on and got 9 of our friends, they'd have 72,000 here?
Well, maybe 71,900. There are 10 people here that would not want to see us play, but there would be a lot of people in red. And
well, after they saw us, there'd be 72,000 that didn't want to see us play.
Yeah, probably, absolutely right. Hey, you know, and we asked Coach Osborne this. We talked to Charlie McBride about this. You know, why do people come? Well, he said, you know, there's nothing else in the state of Nebraska. There is no professional sports here. There's not a Nebraska state. They have obviously tremendous tradition. They've won national championships. They demand national championships. It just makes a great atmosphere.
8 men on the line of scrimmage. Lance Brown back at his own 44. James Garcia at the spread punt formation back at his own 3. Here they come. And a good job by Kansas State, and a howitzer but boot by Garcia. Here's Brown, and he's still going, and he pays for it. Travis Oakes ran him over at the 30-yard line, and there are now 6 seconds to go. See, if you're Michael Bishop, you can throw the ball in the end zone. Here, I think you're probably going to sit on it if you're Nebraska.
Yeah, I'm sure they will, but you know, Nebraska did work on the Hail Mary play in practice on Thursday, so they might want to take one shot up the field, but I'm like you, I don't think they will do that. What I think they'll do is sit on it and go in with a 20-6 lead at halftime.
Lance Brown shaken up a little bit now. He jogs off the field, top of your screen. Keith Black was the player shaken up for Kansas State. Scott Frost has his team in a double twin formation. He's going to go out of the shotgun here. Frost looking deep. And Davison, what a catch! The true freshman, Matt Davison. It'll look good in the stats. However, that is the final play of the first half. Good throw and a wonderful catch by Davison. So at the break, Nebraska pleasing the home folks. They lead Kansas State 20-6. Let's go downstairs. Greg Bell with Coach Bill Snyder. Greg?
Coach, you've had some success with the throwing game. You came in wanting to establish the run. Will you stick with that game plan come the second quarter?
Well, we're going to do whatever we think we can do to move the football. Right now, it's a little difficult to move it on the ground, and we've had some trouble throwing it of late. So, you know, we're going to have to try to mix it up and keep a balance in terms of our approach to offense and see what happens. We got to pick up our kicking game. I think obviously we got ourselves in some trouble there, and we just can't turn the ball over. You know, we turned it over by trying to throw it.
Okay, Coach, good luck in the second half. Okay, Drew, back up to you in the booth.
All right, Greg, thank you very much. Bill Snyder's team needs a big second half. They're down by 2 touchdowns in Lincoln. Do on the ground, Artie?
Well, it's the 21-66 number I was talking about. Kansas State has got to rush for 100 yards in this game to have a chance. Nebraska is going to try to continue to hold them down to under 50.
20-6 at the break. Nebraska leading Kansas State 20-6 in the Big 12 opener for both schools. Lincoln, Nebraska Memorial Stadium. Told you that it's sellout number 217 in a row. When this stadium is filled, most people know around college football, it's the 3rd largest city in the state of Nebraska. 5% of the population is represented by 76,000 folks.
That's an amazing statistic. This is a city here. Maybe you and I are the mayors of this city since we're up here with the microphone.
There's the mayor.
No, he's the governor, I'll guarantee you that.
He's the president, the governor, the mayor, whatever he wants. The most revered man in this state.
Absolutely. There's no man more popular than him. And, you know, there's no man under more pressure sometimes than him when things don't go well either.
That's Gerald Niesman reflecting down at his own goal line. He's been spectacular returning kicks tonight. He had a 46-yarder, also a 36-yarder earlier. Chris Brown to kick it off. Niesman backpedaling 9 yards deep, and he prudently puts a knee down. Let's check in with Greg Bell. Greg, what do you have?
Guys, in that last series for Nebraska, Correll Buckhalter, number 36, left the game limping pretty badly. Talked to the trainers, they came out, they said he'll be coming back in the second half. He's just going to give it a try. Not sure if it's going to last for him or not, but he's going to give it a try in the second half.
They just keep lining up I-backs, don't they?
They keep getting hurt, though. Maybe the best one in the program is hurt D'Angelo Evans, a young freshman who will probably redshirt. But they've had their share of injuries at the I-back this year.
Well, D'Angelo Evans is fun. He's out of Wichita, Kansas. Great player, but he had abdominal surgery. Michael Bishop on the option, tackled from behind. Jason Peter, number 55, maybe the hardest worker in this program, and that's saying something.
Oh, big time. And we met his brother yesterday, and his older brother, Christian, plays for the New York Giants, and that's quite a family. But he's a guy, along with his buddy Wistrom, who are, by the way, roommates, have the best motors maybe in all of college football, the intensity at which they play at.
Well, who gets the list to go grocery shopping in that family? Bad pitch. Hickson's got to jump on it. He'll lose a bunch. Wrapped up by Brian Shaw. Chad Kelsey put the pressure on Bishop, and Kansas State's going backwards.
You know, if you're Kansas State, you got to think that Nebraska knows how to defend the option. Bishop comes on the corner that time, but I don't think he makes a very good pitch. It goes right over the top of Hickson's head. Now, Hickson's got to fall on that football and secure it, because if you go and try to pick it up, Drew, a defender might just knock the ball out of your hands.
Well, Coach, you were a defensive coordinator. 3rd and 25. What do you call on offense?
If I were Kansas State, I'd run a draw here, and then I'd punt.
Tough to hear in this end zone, and movement. Todd Weiner came out of his stance. Grant Wistrom, Eric Johnson pointing in his direction. We will see how the officials saw it.
Well, the crowd wants the offense to jump, obviously, but sometimes the defense jumps. And Nebraska was offsides on defense 3 times in the first drive against Washington.
Offside, defense, 5-yard penalty.
Well, it was Wistrom. That's the good news. The bad news is it's still 3rd and 20.
Yeah, it's 3rd and forever, no matter how you look at it. All it did was get a little bit more room for Kansas State if they have to punt.
Bill Snyder said this: if you want to spend all your time watching the crowd here in Lincoln, the Jumbotron and those things, that someone will probably run right over the top of you and leave tire marks. There are a lot of programs that have come in here and learned that.
Yeah, that's someone's an offensive defensive lineman from Nebraska.
Pressure coming, Bishop. Oh boy, he pays for it at the 6-yard line. Jason Peter blew him a kiss. Jay Foreman also in the backfield applying pressure. The black shirts hold, and Kansas State will punt the football.
Somehow I think Nebraska's come revved up here for this second half. You think Charlie McBride gave him a good talking to?
Flag comes in. Garcia's been averaging more than 50 yards a punt. Shevin Wiggins just shy of midfield trying to get to the wall. And he'll get about 3 yards, and then the omnipresent Travis Oakes made the play. He's everywhere.
Hey, he does it all. He plays linebacker, he runs down the field. He's a valuable guy to this Kansas State team, who plays a lot of starters on offense and defensive special teams.
Illegal motion is indicated by John Laurie, the referee. And Nebraska already with good field position. They'll probably decline it. They're on the plus side of the 50 at the 47 of the Wildcats with a 20-6 lead.
Illegal motion, offense, 5 yards, repeat 4th down.
Well,
repeat the down.
They're going to have him punt it again. And maybe that's because they're going to force him into a shorter punt formation.
Well, he is. He's going to make him really get back and punt out of that end zone, which is very, very difficult to do. You see Garcia get a pretty good punt off here, but now there's going to be a shorter distance for the snapper to snap the ball. And you know Nebraska right now is thinking about blocking the punt. I'm not sure they're going to, because like I said, even if they fair caught the ball, Drew, where they're going to be is great field position. The punter is lined up 13 yards. His feet are on the end of the end zone here, 13 yards from the line of scrimmage. He's usually at 15, Drew.
Brandon Knowles is the long snapper. They need good protection. Garcia, preseason All-American at punter. Low snap, and it's handled nicely, but a line drive punt. Wiggins from the 49. And he'll get it all the way to the 34. So it was a good decision by Tom Osborne and the Huskers. They picked up 13 yards in that exchange. Punt of 46, return of 15. Scott Frost was very, very good in that first half. 88 yards on the ground, Artie.
Yeah, well, Kansas State wanted Scott Frost to carry the ball, and they're going to see the results here. Scott Frost did a great job of engineering this offense, not only on the option, but escaping from danger when he was in the shotgun trying to throw the football.
And now outstanding field position, plus 34. Handed to Amon Green. He squirts through the other side of the pile, gets it to the 27. Jerome Evans tripped him up. And here are the numbers officially for Scott Frost. Just 46 in the air, 88 on the ground. That's okay. His primary responsibility is to move him down the field. He's done that.
Absolutely. At Nebraska, you're going to play in 4 plays. You're only going to throw it 1 time at the most. So, hey, he's going to get bigger yardage running the football than he is throwing it here.
Wiggins and Davison come to the near side. Wiggins in the slot on 2nd and 3. Option short side. Here's the cutback, and Frost is gathered in the backfield. 56 is Andre Rowe. Another one of those junior college transfers. 10 junior college players taken in this year by Bill Snyder. That's unusual for a big-time program.
It is unusual because it's hard to get him into your system. You're going to see Frost this time get some kind of signal to his backs behind him. It's an option, obviously, to his right, but ill-advised. He makes a decision to come back against the grain, and he runs into a lot of guys with silver helmets on. That was probably the first bad decision he has made tonight.
Well, he made one bad decision throwing his first pick in 155 passes in the first half late. Other than that, he's been flawless. He's throwing it down the field, and it's complete. Jackson made the catch. Vershawn Jackson inside the 10-yard line. A flag came in the neighborhood. Number 3, Cephas Scott. Cephas Scott thinks it's offensive interference.
And he might be right. Jackson might have pushed off of Scott to come back on the ball.
It's holding, defensive holding.
If that was defensive holding, the throw was awful late by the official on the flag. We'll have to watch it on the replay.
Holding on the defense. The penalty is declined. First down.
Boy, that ball fluttered up in the air for a while, Artie.
Well, we'll see what happens here. Now you're going to see Frost get out on the corner. Jackson down the field. He floats it up, but I don't see the defensive holding. I would have called that on Jackson, if anybody, because the ball was underthrown, and he looked like he pushed Scott out of the way as he came back for the football, Drew.
1st and goal at the 7. Makovica, the up back, the eye back, Amon Green. Toss sweep. And Amon will walk in. Touchdown, Nebraska.
The old power pitch play. Nothing like a great offensive line that's going to get out in front of you. Watch big old Aaron Taylor there, number 67. He's going to throw it back. Block. Makovica is going to knock somebody down. And Green is going to walk into the end zone literally untouched.
Chris Brown back into the football game. Retzlaff is the holder, and the kick is right through. 27-6 with 11:29 to go in the 3rd quarter. Nebraska off and rolling. And Artie Gigantino, I'm Drew Goodman. And the Huskers have got it going on the ground behind the pipeline. And they have such an athletic offensive line. They're not just 300-pounders. They can move out people.
No, and Milt Tepper, the offensive line coach, he calls them a bunch of short, stubby guys. But they're big guys. Stubby means big to him. He doesn't want big guys playing here in terms of height, but he wants wide guys. And he's got a bunch of wide bodies playing for him.
We talked to him yesterday. He says, I recruit explosive guys. Guys with punch. He must have used the word explosive half a dozen times in our conversation. Little turn-in pattern. Burnett and Ralph Brown. And a flag comes in. Perhaps interference on Brown. Tight coverage. They've tried to pick on him, and they have been unsuccessful.
Holding on the defense. 10-yard penalty. First down.
Well, it must have been Brown at the line of scrimmage. Those slant patterns are easy throws for the quarterback, and what you want to do is get the receiver the football and hopefully allow him to run after the catch, something they did with the 49ers with Jerry Rice and John Taylor that they made famous. But they also, Ron Hudson and Bill Schneider told us they want to pick on the smaller corners of Nebraska by throwing the ball on quick slants to the wide receivers of Kansas State.
Well, Central Florida, Dante Culpepper is an underrated quarterback, threw for more than 300 yards against Nebraska, and Washington threw for a bunch of yards in that loss in Seattle 2 weeks ago. 11:19 to go in the third quarter. Bishop goes play action. He guns it, and it's dropped. And that has been the story too frequently for Kansas State's wideouts this year. Gavin Parise had it in his hands. That was on a line for 45 yards.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, they have had nothing but problems catching the football. And I don't know if Bishop throws the ball too hard or not. But Perez on the bottom here is going to be in great position to go and catch the football. And Bishop delivers it right on the money. It's a good pattern. He's wide open. It's the right call. But you got to catch the football, Drew, when it's thrown on the money.
Look at this, an option that goes back the other way. Hits and loses a bunch. Jason Peter was not fooled. This guy is 285 pounds, and he has 9% body fat.
And you know it's a killer. That just says what a big play that drop was the play before. Because now instead of being down the field, it's minus yards. A little razzle-dazzle here. They're going to start an option to one side, but come back on like a reverse option. I'm not sure I've ever seen that before. But give all the credit to Peter. What a nice job of coming up the field and making the play.
Coach, I'm not sure you'll see it again.
I don't think so. Nor do I want to.
3rd and 19. Bishop trying to get it to Parise, and there was good coverage, and the pass wasn't close. 4th down again for Kansas State. And the busiest man in Nebraska, James Garcia, trots onto the field.
You were talking about junior college players. They have a hard time, no matter what position they're playing, getting into a rhythm. And I think that's the problem with Bishop. It's been the problem all year. He missed 1,500 snaps in spring practice because he wasn't there for 15 days. He's having a hard time getting into rhythm with this passing game tonight.
Garcia fumbled it, and it was nearly blocked. I don't know how he got that away. Wiggins from the 40 takes a lick and keeps on ticking, at least for a moment. Keith Black covered the punt very well for Kansas State. Artie, how'd they miss this?
Well, being an old special teams coach, you got to go in and you got to take the football off his foot. And what happens? The guy from Nebraska jumps up too soon. He didn't have to jump there, Drew. Just run right through Warfield and take the ball off the punter's foot. That's special teams punt block A right there. Don't jump. Take it off the guy's foot.
That's how you taught the Rams, huh?
Hey, you were pretty good at it.
I know you were. Here's Amon Green with a couple of blockers on the counter. Amon Green in the corner. He can go, folks. See ya later. Touchdown, Huskers. "59 yards. Boy, they can get on you and run up the score in a hurry.
But Green did a wonderful job of keeping his balance there. He's a big guy. He's an excellent athlete, but he also has balance.
17 trips, 140 yards now unofficially for Amon Green. And Brown, another extra point. At one point in time, this was a 7-6 football game. Not any longer.
Watch the left side of the line here. Both these guys are going to pull. Tight end's going to do a good job of chop blocking here. It's a counter play, and it's off to the running. But Green's got about 600 pounds out in front of him, and he does a nice job there of making a tackle or miss him. He keeps his balance and keeps going down the field. You know, Frankie Solich, the running back coach, teaches aggressive, violent running here, and that guy, number 30, is as violent and an aggressive runner as they have had here at the University of Nebraska.
Well, from one current great runner to a former great runner, not only Greg Bell being a former great runner, but the guy he is situated with now. Greg?
Hey guys, I'm down here on the sideline with legendary running back for the Minnesota Vikings, Chuck Foreman, whose son Jay is out on the field right now. Changed his number to number 44, basically in honor of you. Did you give him any tips to tell him what not to do when he's approached by one of those legendary kind of shake and bake backs as you were?
Well, the thing he better not do is be aggressive, uncontrolled. You better be controlled and aggressive. That's the best way to handle that.
Well, I tell you what, Jay's out here having a great game, guys. Chuck Foreman, you couldn't get too, you can't get a better, greater shake and bake running back than here. And what do you think about this Amon Green here for Nebraska?
Well, I think Amon is a wonderful running back. He's got a lot of talent. He's going to get better. As long as he stays aggressive and attacks when he's running, he'll be the best in the game.
Well, thanks a lot, Chuck. Good luck to your son all season long. Back up to the booth.
All right, Greg, thank you. And thanks to Chuck Foreman. Remember that pirouette he used to do? And he was one of the all-time great receivers coming out of the backfield.
Yeah, and he was one of the first real big backs. A guy that big runs around. And, I asked Jay Foreman yesterday or the other day at practice, I said, what has your dad taught you? You know what he said? He said, my dad taught me how to focus on something. He said, he didn't give me, I'm not a tailback like him, I'm not a great receiver like him, but he taught me how to focus myself. And I thought that was a great tribute to his dad. And this young man, Jay Foreman's got outstanding football intelligence.
That's what the coaching staff says about him. He's consistent, he's very bright. Michael Bishop needs to make some plays, and on the option, he turned the wrong way. And now he's running for his life. Oh, big block there on Johnson. And that is a spectacular 3-yard gain, folks. Eric Hickson nearly knocked Eric Johnson into the Nebraska sideline.
But that's what you get out of a guy like that. He might make the big mistake, he might make the big play, and he might make the crazy play. He runs literally 40 yards here, gets some great blocks, but as you said, only gets a 3-yard gain out of it. That's big-time stuff right there. It's also exciting.
And he ran 50 to get 3. They rush 5 time, and a completion of the 34-yard line, making sure he hung on this time, is Gavin Parise, the junior from Pasadena. He's another one of those junior college transfers.
Set all the records there that Anthony Miller set when he was at Pasadena. Tell you one thing, watch Bishop's release here. He gets back in the pocket. He's only looking at one receiver, and he really releases that football. He reminds me of a lot of great quarterbacks in the NFL that have got that baseball arm, Drew, that can really gun it. And maybe he can throw the ball 100 yards. Maybe you're right.
I'm telling you, he has a howitzer. We were watching him warm up. And remember that throw a couple of moments ago, 45 yards on a line. Hickson trying to get to the corner, running downhill. You can't outrun the Nebraska defense. Johnson got there along with Mike Brown. We're at Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, Nebraska. And we're thrilled you're along tonight on FX with Artie Gigantino and Greg Bell. I'm Drew Goodman. The Huskers, after a close first quarter, have started to pour it on in the second and third. Johnson will hobble off. The Huskers lead 34-6. And they are so deep. They have 120 guys suited up tonight on that Nebraska sideline.
And Johnson wasn't even the starter. Octavius McFarland was, and he was injured. So now you're looking at the third Will Backer.
Movement. Chad Kelsey walked across the line of scrimmage, but Ryan Young might have come out of his stance. And when you're 330 pounds and you come out of your stance, there's no getting back into your stance.
No, there isn't. He's a guy that everybody calls Shaq because he resembles Shaq O'Neal. And he is a house. Ryan Young, number 76, is just absolutely huge.
He's a house with maids' quarters. Look at that sideline. You talk about a sea of red in the stands. There's a sea of red on the sideline from 30 to 30. And more yellow hankies.
But one of the reasons they have so many players is the great walk-on program that they have here. They encourage walk-ons.
Start offense. 5-yard penalty. Second down.
been well documented, the finest walk-on program in the country, and nearly half of their top 88 players, that's 4 deep, folks, nearly half are from the state of Nebraska and were walk-ons.
And 3 right now are starters, and what Coach Osborne does, he saves 4 or 5 scholarships each year to give to a worthy walk-on, and I think it's a great program.
Second down, 21. Bishop hands it off, and Hickson, battling for yardage, wrestled down by Mike Brown. Tell you what, Mike Brown, 5'11", 205, each the rover, and he'll come up and really smack you.
Well, he looked like Ronnie Lott on that one coming out of the secondary. You're going to see him come here on the right of your screen. He's going to come up. He's going to balance up. He's going to lower his shoulder. He's going to wrap up the running back and drag him down. That was a big-time play. He reminds me of a guy like Ronnie Lott or Tim McDonald, some of those great safeties we had when I was coaching at USC.
Well, those are 2 pretty good players.
It was all coaching.
Yeah, I know. And the pass wide of Darnell McDonald on 3rd down. So James Garcia will have to punt it. Eric Johnson's got his foot off, and unless you're a place kicker, that's not good.
Like you said before, though, Garcia might be one of the busiest guys in all of Lincoln tonight.
He should get 2 letters just for tonight alone.
He might. It's not over yet either.
There's James. You know why he's an All-American candidate coming in. 48 yards average here in Lincoln tonight, and this is another very good punt. Tough to return, and Nebraska's going to try to return it. This is Brandon Harrison finally being corralled. Travis Oakes down in the neighborhood. Jeff Kelly was there covering the punt. Huskers 34, Wildcats 6. Huskers leading the Wildcats 34-6. And tomorrow on FX Major Movie Sunday, Brad Pitt is Johnny Suede. A rock and roll singer dreaming of stardom finds a pair of shoes that make all of his wishes come true. When he loses them, he'll do anything to get them back. Well, this Major Movie Sunday tomorrow at 8, 7 Central on FX. And a short gain, Cephas Scott comes up and tackles Amon Green. A pickup of just a yard.
Well, the one thing you know Nebraska's going to continue to do is pound the football up inside, go outside. I think you're going to see him, though, in this series, Drew, maybe try to get outside with the option a little bit more. The one thing about this offense and Tom Osborne, they are very, very, very patient people.
Double tight. Amon Green on a counter. Here comes a reverse. This is the freshman quarterback Newcomb playing wingback. And he's tackled at the 49-yard line. He got a great block. He's an exciting guy. Tom Osborne said he's even better than we thought he was when we recruited him.
Well, that's what happens. You know, he comes from a place like New Mexico where there's not a lot of players. And here's a counter play that turns into a reverse. And it's a great block by Scott Frost. He does an excellent job of coming back and blocking somebody. And you gotta love right that with a quarterback when a quarterback's gonna roll up and try to block a defensive lineman. The thing about Nebraska's trickery, though, Drew, it's very subtle. It happens when you don't think it's going to happen.
He was blocking a 290-pound man in Damian McIntosh. They fake it this time. Amon Green's got open field. Look out. Goodbye. That wasn't a bad 3-play drive. Amon Green, 192 yards on the ground.
It wasn't a bad call either, and the ball handling was absolutely superb. It was set up, obviously, by the reverse. Great call by the offensive coaches in Nebraska.
Chris Brown make it 41-6. Amon Green out of Omaha Central High School. A guy way back when by the name of Gale Sayers starred at Omaha Central. Are rolling 41-6 over Kansas State. The last time the Wildcats were able to beat Nebraska, 1968. Ahman Green wasn't even in a twinkle in his parents' eye. Career high 4 touchdowns, 192 yards rushing. His career best is 214 against Iowa State. He was over 1,000 as a freshman. He had turf toe last year and merely rushed for 917 yards as he was banged up. But he's as good an I-back as they've had. They've had some unbelievable I-backs here.
And ask Jim Lambright, the head coach at the University of Washington, because Green ran right over the top of him last week in Seattle. And Lambright had a bad shoulder and a bad knee all week.
Well, here is how Ahman Green got in the end zone. A 3-play drive. We'll show you the last 2.
Okay, here's the reverse where Green hands the ball off to Newcomb. Newcomb comes around, gets a great block by Frost, and gets some real positive yardage there. Excellent job by Scott Frost, but be careful, Scott, you don't hurt yourself. Okay, now here's the second play. Now watch this big guy right there, Eric Anderson. He comes around, he's an All-American player. He's gonna end up blocking 2 guys, and Green just takes it on into the end zone. But that play was made by Eric Anderson's block of 2 men.
Counter tray, Hickson bangs it through there for 7 yards. 41-6 Nebraska. Folks, they're over 300 yards rushing, and when they rush for more than 300 yards in a football game, they have won 77 consecutive games, and they're well on their way to 78. Kansas State was 7, which means in their last 4 games against the Huskers,
they've got 8 yards.
8 yards
rushing.
That's not going to get it done.
Penalty flags before the play.
You know the amazing thing about the folks here in Lincoln, they will stay to the bitter end no matter what. I mean, if they hang 70 points on an opponent, they will stay to the end.
False, excuse me, defense, offsides, 5-yard penalty. Defense move first.
Let me tell you a quick story. There's Eric Anderson, number 70, the All-American. He's 6'4", 305 from Southeast High School here in Lincoln. Now, Scott Frost is 6'3" and 220. His mother, Scott Frost's mother, was a great track athlete. In the state championship in Nebraska, this guy won the shot put. In second place was the 305-pound kid, Anderson. How about that?
Speechless.
Bishop, all kinds of time, a rope, and a great catch inside the 30 by Darnell McDonald. Just his second catch of the year. I'm amazed at his arm.
You know, he really did a good job, but you know, there was no one in the passing lane. The Kansas State offensive line's doing a good job of keeping these red shirts away from him. When he's got time, he is an accurate passer. And like you said, he throws that ball on a rope. But you know, the Nebraska defenders have got to go up and try to react to the football. They can't stand around and watch.
42-yard gain. Counter, Hickson makes a man miss, and then Eric Johnson grabbed him. Good to see Johnson back in the football game, the junior from Phoenix, 200-pound outside backer, and that's the new trend for Nebraska. Ever since Florida State and Miami beat them up in the Orange Bowl, they went out and recruited more speed at the linebacker level, Coach.
Yeah, you know what they're doing? They're recruiting safeties and moving them to outside linebacker, and they're recruiting outside linebackers and making them defensive ends, because that gives you the maximum amount of speed on defense, and especially because they play on turf here, artificial surface, which makes the defense a lot faster.
They fake the toss sweep. Bishop on the slant, and Darnell McDonald hounded by Jerome Peterson. Kansas State obviously would take a miracle for them to win this football game, down by 30-plus points at 41-6. They're down by 35. Bill Snyder has not overhyped this game. He says, you know what, they're another opponent. Obviously, we'd love to beat Nebraska and move to the next level and continue the evolution of this program. He said, but you know what, if we lose, it's not the end of the season. There's still plenty more football. Bishop has a man wide open, and Mike Lawrence catches it, but he stepped out short of the first down at the 18-yard line. The reason I bring that up, Artie, is that instead of Kansas State being overly deflated if in fact they lose this football game, they will be able to gather themselves a little quicker.
Yeah, you can't put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, and he's absolutely correct. I mean, he knew coming into this game tonight it was going to be a tough go against Nebraska. But he's got a lot of games to go, and he's been to bowl games the last 4 years with defeats. So even if you get beat up here tonight, you can still have a great season.
4th down and 3. Kansas State going for it. Nebraska comes with a blitz up the middle. Bishop in trouble. How did he get out of there? 1st down, Kansas State. That is what he brings to the table. Unbelievable athleticism. They had him dead to right, 6 yards deep in the backfield.
Great escapability. And one of the tough things when you're blitzing, if you come clean when no one blocks you, you got to slow down a little bit. If you don't, big guys like Bishop can avoid you. And that's exactly what happened to Jay Foreman that time. He had a clean shot at Bishop. You got to bring yourself under a little bit more control and make the short tackle, not the hard hit.
I'm not so sure Bishop's middle name isn't Houdini. 1st and 10 at the 14. Counter Trey, hits him, explodes through the hole to the end zone, touchdown. Nice looking drive for Kansas State. And that was against the first defense.
Ron Hudson, the offensive coordinator, said he really wanted to run the counter play, which is exactly what they did on that play against Nebraska. Texas ran it effectively against Nebraska last year in the championship game. And that time, the Kansas State offensive line executes it perfectly.
Brian Goolsby had a great block at the point of attack, the 250-pound junior fullback. And Kansas State will go for 2. They botched an extra point early in the game. Trips to the top. And in the flat, they tried to get it to Mike Lawrence. The ball was tipped at the line of scrimmage, and the 2-point conversion is no good.
Little trickery there, Drew. Thrown against the grain, so to speak.
And so the Huskers lead 41-12.
Let's go back to the touchdown run.
Okay, watch Kendall Jaycox here. He's the center. He is going to block back here, and they're going to block back here. Watch what happens. Good block on Foreman by number 74, Kendall Jaycox, which springs it, and Hickson just does an excellent job of re-accelerating up the field. That's exactly the way the Kansas State offensive coaches drew that up during the week. And as I said, Texas ran it effectively against Nebraska in the championship game last year, and Kansas State thought that they could execute it tonight.
41-12, Nebraska. That man doesn't look too happy. That's not a happy face. And I can't blame him. Joe Walker and Shevin Wiggins back deep for Nebraska.
What happens in these situations, you know, the first half went fairly fast, but now it seems like it's going to go on forever because you have a lot of reserves playing, and for Kansas State, it just this next 15 to 18 minutes is going to take an hour, come a little real time, but for them it's going to seem like 10 hours.
Those high kicks that's going to come down to Walker at the 23-yard line. And he gets it out to the 38-yard line. So Nebraska again in very good field position, leading 41-12. Well, tomorrow, America's most watched pregame show is back on the road, and it'll be live from Green Bay. Then don't miss a key NFC Central battle as the 5-0 Buccaneers will clash with world champion Green Bay or other regional action. Turn to your local Fox station for all the action at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Check local listings. Scott Frost still in there. Makovica and Amon Green through the hole. Scott Frost keeps it, and he gets about 4 yards. Let's check in with Greg Bell. Greg?
Hey, on that last series before the touchdown run, Dan Young, the offensive line coach for Nebraska, came over to his big guy, looked at him, knew they were tired, and said, look, one more good series, and I'll probably get you out of this game early. So look for the depth of Nebraska to start showing.
Yeah, number 62, Matt Hoskinson is in the game, and he is the 6th lineman. He's the center now for Nebraska, but he is a starter. He plays a little guard on both sides and plays some center, so he rotates in there. Talk about depth. They give it to the up back, and the fullback charges ahead. A first down for Makovica, the junior from East Butler High School in Brainerd, Nebraska, recruited by no one out of high school.
He was a walk-on guy, and you know, the Nebraska fullbacks, no one ever knows their names. In fact, like we said, he rushed for 129 yards against Washington last week, 2 weeks ago, and that was the most since 1989 by a fullback here at the University of Nebraska. So he's a tough guy, but he's a guy not everybody knows about.
Frost, option pass down the middle. Kenny Cheatham was well covered by Dimitrik Denmark, and Frost hummed it over his head. 2:10 to go. Actually 2:12 to go in the third quarter. Frost 4 for 11 in this football game throwing it, but the important stats, what he's done on the ground, and also that he's been able to get the ball to Amon Green, which is always a good option.
Yeah, it's too bad they don't count completions on the pitches. You know, right. He'd have a whole lot better percentage.
Green, minimal gain here, maybe a yard. Mark Simino and Travis Oakes defensively. Those two guys are good friends. They arrived at Manhattan a year apart. They're both quiet, hard workers. And Oakes said, when I saw Simino and I watched him work out for a couple of weeks and I watched him play, I knew that we'd be good friends.
Yeah, well, they ought to be, because they are bookends, and you gotta love guys like that. They are both extremely, extremely productive football players for these Wildcats.
3rd down and 10 for Nebraska. Frost on the option, trying to cut it back, and Kansas State does a good job flowing to the football. Casey Weirman, backup linebacker, made the play, and Nebraska stopped the presses. They'll have to punt. I'll tell you what, Jesse Cush, the punter for Nebraska, he's like the Maytag repairman. They never use him.
They never use him. No, he's an interesting guy. His dad played safety on the 1970-71 National Championship team. He's an athlete, and you know what? He's a big heavy metal fan, so he's a guy that beats, quote, to his own drummer.
I like that. So Artie, if he's a heavy metal fan, I'm not hanging out with him after the game. David Allen on the return, trying to squirt free. A lot of effort on that return. Gets to the 23-yard line. Well, a reminder, Tuesday on Fox Sports Net. Don't stings for the times in your area. And Artie, I checked out this week's version of Hardcore Football, and it's rated PG, so you can look in.
I can look in, yes. Are you ready to go? That's a good program.
That's a great program. If you like the NFL, make sure you're with us on Fox Sports Net on Tuesday nights. 20 seconds to go, clock moving in the third quarter. There's big Brian Goolsby. He had a foot injury and didn't play in the first couple of ball games. This is one of the better blocking fullbacks you'll see in college football.
Yeah, and this offense really, really missed him, because they had a backup who's not quite as big, Matt Gangwish, who did a good job, but he's not quite as a prolific a blocker as Goolsby is. So Ron Hudson and Bill Schneider were very, very happy to get him back at full health.
That'll do it. 3 chapters closed in Lincoln. A familiar story. Nebraska 41, Kansas State 12. Lincoln, Nebraska. The Cornhuskers leading the Wildcats 41-12. Drew Goodman, Artie Gigantino, Greg Bell from Memorial Stadium. 2nd down and 8 for Kansas State. They need points, and they need them in a hurry. Bishop flushed. And his pass short of Eric Hickson in the flat. Might have been knocked down by Mike Rucker. Hard to throw over him. He's 6'6". Here's the QB comparison, and this really is the story of the football game. Bishop 5 of 15, Frost 4 of 11, but you see some big plays from Frost. 4 catches, 169 yards. It's running the football. Kansas State dead last year in the Big 12 running it. They've had success, but against MAC teams tonight, Not a lot of success.
No question. The quarterback's ability from Nebraska to run the football has been the difference in this game tonight.
Bishop with time, throwing the out route. And you want to talk about good coverage. Ralph Brown was more open than Everett Burnett. And Ralph Brown has a red jersey on.
And he's the 1996 Big 12 Defensive Newcomer of the Year.
See those arms there? There's a lot of big guns. Nice little tricep shot there on Ahman Green. A lot of big guns with Nebraska players. They have the best strength program in the country under Boyd Epley, and they have had for a number of years. They call it strength and performance, and they have an index that they keep track of. Here's a punt, and taken by Harrison. Harrison gets to the corner and runs out of bounds. And, you know, Michael Bishop punted that football. He's the backup punter.
Right, that's the second punt he's had this year. And, you know, that just goes to show you what kind of athlete he really is. And it wasn't bad form from what I could see from up here. And I'll guarantee you, if he could have, he would have made a tackle on that play. You're going to see him here. He catches the ball, bobbles it a little bit, drops it. That's pretty good form. Little work, he might be doggone good at it.
There doesn't seem to be much he can't do. He'd be good in a punt, pass, and kick competition. I think he's too old, though.
Probably too old. He's won a few.
Frost. And he tossed it to Jay Sims in the football game. Jay Sims. We talked about the performance index a moment ago. He has the top all-time performance index. That includes a number of lifts, a 10-yard pro shuttle run, a 40-yard dash time. This guy, the best conditioned athlete ever at Nebraska. And you know what? He's the third-team I-back.
Yeah, the problem he's had is the injury bug. You know, he's been hurt, and, you know, not against him, but it's just little freak accidents, a twisted ankle here, a pulled muscle here. So he is, when he's healthy, he can really do something in this Nebraska offense.
Billy Leglade at fullback, and knifing in there and making the play was Dyshot Carter, the cornerback. And he tripped up Jay Sims, and it will set up third down.
Well, it'll be interesting here now to see how many passes Nebraska throws. They're obviously trying to run out the clock. They're walking back to the huddle, slowly trying to utilize as much time as possible, and then just get out of here with a win.
That chin strap is interesting.
Well, he's probably got a cut or something on it, and that's to protect it from getting an infection.
Bobby Newcomb is in the football game at a wing back. Scott Frost looking at a 3rd and 7. Frost throwing, complete, first down yardage to Kenny Cheatham. The 6'4" junior from Phoenix hauled it in. It's kind of lonely sometimes being a wide receiver at Nebraska.
Yeah, it is, because you're not going to get the ball very much. But that last formation was a new formation that Nebraska put in a week ago. And it's 4 wide receivers in the game, which is a little different here. But Tom Osborne said they want to open it up a little bit and give defenses different things to get ready for. And the next opponent will have to get ready for that formation.
Slot to the top, now Wiggins in motion. Pressure coming, they get the screen away to Sims. He has blockers with the escort. Sims to the 29. Tripped up by Jeff Kelly. Scott Frost paid for getting that screen pass off.
You know what, though? He has got a sixth sense as to when to throw that ball. He did a nice job of dropping back that time, giving his lineman enough time to get out in front of him, holds it, fades back, and throws the ball. That was picture-perfect screen mechanics by a quarterback. And it's also great blocking out in front of Sims by the offensive line.
Makovica back in at fullback. He gets the football, and he takes a few licks. Gets about 2 yards, and he'll jog back to the huddle. Damian McIntosh made the tackle. Makovica, another one of those big weight room guys. They all are here. 9 strength coaches.
That's more than most football staffs in the country. But hey, if you're going to emphasize something, if you're going to be the best at what you try, you know, at what you set out to be, then do it. A long time ago, Bob Devaney and Tom Osborne sat down and said, we are going to set a trend here in the United States with strength development, and they have here at the University of Nebraska.
And a lot of lean big guys, not just big guys.
Even the coaches are.
Yeah, they're in great shape. Tom Osborne runs every day. Here's Frost to the corner on the option, give him 9. Scott Frost, who runs under 4.6 in the 40. You know, he reminds me a little of Cordell Stewart. Same kind of size, the ability to run, the ability to throw.
Yeah, he can do it all. And, you know, you look at him because he looks like we talked about before. He almost looks like a safety. And, you know, he received a lot of criticism when he left Nebraska and went to Stanford. But I don't think if you talk to him, he regrets it. He had a great experience in Nebraska. He's come back. He's going to be a hero this year, even though he got off to a rocky start last year. But this guy is really something special.
3rd down and a yard. Twin tight end, Sims puts his helmet down and gets enough for the 1st down before he hit Jared Cooper. Backup strong safety. Football's a violent game, folks. Listen to this play.
First down, Nebraska.
You gotta just love pads, and that's a great job by our crew downstairs in the truck, but you gotta love it when you can hear the pads, especially way up here.
A big part of the autumn, a huge part here in Lincoln. 2 seasons, football season and waiting for football season in Nebraska. Frost tucks it up, gets a couple. Andre Rowe made the play defensively, the junior from Boca Raton, Florida, by way of Fort Scott Community College. They really recruit that Jayhawk Junior College Conference.
Well, there's a lot of good quality players there, and you have a chance to really evaluate the players, you know, in that league because you're so close. And there's a lot of good junior college players playing in the country today. California's got over 95 junior colleges alone. There's a bunch in Texas, so there are a lot of good football players in the junior college ranks.
It used to be on a first-name basis for all those coaches, too. Here's Sims, busted up the middle to the 5.
That was Nebraska power there. Straight Nebraska power play. And they are just trying to wear down this Kansas State defense. You're going to see it coming right at you now. It's the right guard's going to pull around, the fullback's going to lead, and Sims is going to lower his shoulder and get up the field. That is called violent running and aggressive running by the running back, Jay Sims.
He gets another chance. Jay Sims stays on his feet. To the 2, 1, touchdown! Oh man, what a run that was! A whole lot of want-to on that run.
Yeah, the effort on the end here is just magnificent. He gets knocked down, he turns around, he lowers his shoulder, he keeps his feet moving. That is just great effort.
That's 3 greats, Artie.
That's 3 greats all the way. I hope the coaches grade him the way I do.
47-12, make it 48-12. Nebraska will make it 29 in a row over Kansas State. But a whole lot of folks have come in here and left on the wrong end. 48-12, Huskers. Frankie London could be getting ready to play a little quarterback. He might give Scott Frost the rest of the evening off. 4 yards deep. This is Neesman. And he only gets to the 17-yard line this time. Let's check in with Greg Bell, one running back, talking about another running back. Greg?
Hey, guys, Sims is a classic case of what a lot of the coaches here at Nebraska told us yesterday, is that everybody here works 100% of the time, regardless if they're a first-string or a fourth-string guy. And you love it when you get to see a guy like Sims come who's gone through so much adversity here. And you know what the biggest thing I see right now, guys, emotionally, Kansas State is being drained, because when the seconds and thirds can come in and do what the first team does, all you can do is shake your head.
Absolutely. I'll tell you a quick story about Jay Sims after this snap. Kansas State backed up at their own 16-yard line. Tight formation. Bishop still the quarterback. And they hand it to Hickson. Hickson cuts it back, gets to the 19, and then Justin Wilkes wrapped him up, the 310-pound junior. Jay Sims is 25 years of age. He's a senior from Omaha. Didn't have any carries coming into this football game. But Jay Sims, you say, how's he 25 years of age and he's a senior? Well, Jay Sims is a kid that took 3 years off after high school and just worked. And then decided he wanted to attend college. And he's worked very, very hard, and his reward tonight, 5 carries, 19 yards, and a touchdown in his senior year. Hickson has the corner. 35-yard line, and a flag comes in. Peterson made the tackle. I wonder if he grabbed a hold of the face mask.
Yeah, I'll bet you that's what it was. And what you're seeing here is Kansas State now working on their offense. They know they're going to lose the game, so they're going to try to execute their offense here. And I think it's a good move by Bill Schneider. And it was a face mask.
Personal foul, face mask, 15-yard penalty, into the run, first down.
Watch the fullback here, Gangwish, right here. Watch the great block that he throws on this play. 98's coming up the field, and boom, he puts his shoulder into him, keeps his feet moving, but then he keeps his feet moving and puts him on his back. That's really a pancake block, and a great job by Matt Gangwish, the 5'11", 240-pounder, and he's from Shelton, Nebraska, so you know that had to feel good for him.
And one of 2 Kansas State Wildcats from Nebraska. Bishop looks to the backside, nothing there. Now he's going to heave the bomb into double coverage, and all right, now he let that go at the 40, and it landed at the goal line. So that was 60 yards, and the ball looked like about 12 yards off the ground. Do you think he can get it 93 now?
He might be able to. I still want to see him do it before I pass judgment, but he has got great arm strength, and if he can just control it, and if he can work within the confines of the offense, he might have a good future here. Obviously, tonight's going to be a disappointment for him, but what he's got to do, he's got to get better next week and a little bit better the week after, because he hasn't played very much. This is only his 4th game.
That's right. His last loss, state semifinals in high school when Willis, Texas went down. Bishop on 2nd and 10. Given time, there's a strike and through the hands of his intended target, Darnell McDonald, who took a lick.
Well, you don't want to hang your receiver up like that, because if the ball's in the air over the middle, a defender is looking around, lurking around, looking to lay the wood onto you. And that's what happened that time. Let's just hope he just got the wind knocked out of him.
I know I sound like a broken record. We have a great view because we're up high. But that was another 40, 45-yard pass on a rope.
Yeah, it is. And like I said, he's a good baseball player. He's got a good arm.
And the thing that has to develop for Kansas State, not only Michael Bishop has to mature as a quarterback and get used to playing at this level, completely different level than the junior college ranks, already as you've pointed out, but this receiving crew, very young. Kevin Lockett led them last year, 2nd-round pick of the Kansas City Chiefs. The cupboard was bare when they went to practice in the spring.
Right, they have 2 junior college players and they're 2 deep at wide receiver. But I think maybe one of the biggest problems they're having, quote, with the passing game is Michael Bishop was not there during spring practice. And there's an adjustment period for junior college players, especially quarterback. And here's a replay of it. The ball is thrown high, but I tell you, it looks like McDonald just gets the wind knocked out of him the way he came down. But if he would have been in a little bit more of an inside position, he could have really gotten knocked out. And it was a good job by the Nebraska defenders, especially Harrison, number 2, going up for the ball and playing the ball and the man.
That was a double kill shot by Clint Finley. He got McDonald, and he also got his own man. 3rd down and 10 as McDonald makes his way to the bench. College Park, Georgia, his hometown. Nebraska sends 5, turn in, good strike, and it is complete for a first down to Gavin Parise.
See, that's the kind of passes that he's got to throw. It looked like he looked the safety off that time, but they're curl patterns about 12 to 14 yards deep. This guy does not throw the long ball well, but what he does, he throws the intermediate route well. And it did look like he looked off the safety. That was a nice job that time by Bishop. And what you're going to do if you're Ron Hudson, the offensive coordinator, and Bill Schneider, the head coach, you're going to say, hey, this is progress here being made with this young, talented quarterback in the fourth quarter.
Slot to the near side, out of the gun, Bishop. And that ball was knocked down. He had a man open. And you see Michael Bishop indicating the ball was tipped. 9:19 to go in the fourth quarter. Nebraska 48, Kansas State 12 from Lincoln. The Huskers trying to win their 39th consecutive game at home. They haven't lost a conference game since '92. Here's a great trivia question. Who was the last team during the regular season? And Texas won the Big 12 championship over Nebraska last year. During the regular season, name the last Big 12 or Big 8 school to beat Nebraska. Nope. Here's Bishop on a QB draw. Breaks a tackle. Bishop to the 15. He's a lot of fun. He can make plays. Knocked down by Brandon Harrison.
Boy, is he one heck of an athlete. The coaches were right about that. And, you know, you asked me, why did they recruit him? Because he's not a polished quarterback. Well, that's why they recruited him, because they saw sparks of greatness with this guy when he makes some things happen and his escapability. But now you got to somehow, like we talked about, corral it a little bit and get it into the offense. And that guy will do it, because this guy is one of the great coaches, definitely one of the top 10 in the country today.
He's been the National Coach of the Year on a couple of occasions by different publications. Hickson tries to cut it back. Nebraska swarms to the ball. Mike Rutger through the knockout blow. Number 84, the junior from St. Joseph, Missouri. Getting back to our trivia question. November 1992, Iowa State in Ames beat Nebraska 19-10. That's the last time Nebraska lost in conference 31 3/4 games ago.
Was it snowing that day or something?
A guy by the name of Marty Seiler, little option quarterback for Iowa State, had a big day. Bishop looks left and now lobs toward the end zone, and he throws it out of bounds. He was trying to get it to DeAndre Robinson, transfer from SMU.
And what Nebraska's trying to do tonight, and I think they've been successful at it, they're trying to stay in their pass rush lanes. Charlie McBride did not want to stunt and run a bunch of elaborate pass stunt things with their defensive line tonight. He wanted to just stay in your lanes and make Bishop try to beat you with the pass. And don't allow him to scramble by keeping him contained in the pocket and let those two defensive tackles push up the field. I thought it was the right strategy by that guy as far as handling Bishop tonight.
3rd and 10 for Bishop. Pressure. Scramble time. Look at this. 10 to the 5 to the 4.
Ball carried
He
by
is
Michael
something.
Bishop.
Rucker finally there defensively, along with a few other red jerseys. Michael Bishop, he can go 1 on 11 and make people miss.
Well, you know, he kind of ignores the first guy who's around him. He always does that. Look at him. He just ignores him. His eyes are down the field looking for the second guy. He is a big-time threat when he's got that ball in his hands. And I'll tell you, if I was choosing up sides for a street game, I would take this guy on my team.
He'd be number 1.
He would be number 1 in my draft.
1st and goal at the 4. Bishop will walk in.
Ball carried.
Touchdown, Kansas State. That was a Michael Bishop drive, almost exclusively.
Almost exclusively all Michael Bishop. And, you know, again, it seems like he's settled down. Obviously, the game is a little bit out of reach. Does a good job of faking into the line here, but there was no question in his mind that he was looking into the corner of the end zone there, and he was going to take the ball into the end zone himself. A little bit too late, obviously, for Kansas State to come back. But again, I think Ron Hudson and Bill Schneider are looking at the next game and the progress that this young athlete has made tonight.
You know what? He has not played poorly at all in front of 75,000 folks here tonight in Memorial Stadium. Option, end zone, he goes up over the top. Number 7 is pretty darn special. He's on the short end, however, right now. 48-20, Huskers, 7:35 to go in the fourth.
Mutual of Omaha presents 25 years of excellence. Coach Tom Osborne received his 200th career victory against Oklahoma State on October 7, 1993. It took Coach Osborne only 21 years and 249 games to reach this landmark.
We call it the line score. 10-6 at the end of one for Nebraska, and they poured it on in the middle 2 quarters. They lead 48-20 over Kansas State. Drew Goodman, Artie Gigantino, and Greg Bell from Lincoln. Kevin Wiggins was off his hands, but he wasn't going to be able to return this one. Actually, it was Kenny Cheatham downfield. Well, stay tuned. Coming up after the game on the quarterback for Nebraska. London, a sophomore from Lake Charles, Louisiana. He can fly. And he hands the football off to Jay Sims, who gets 5 yards.
You know, he's really a great ball handler, this guy. He runs the option well. He runs bootleg passes well. But I was very impressed on Thursday at practice with his ability to handle the football. He's really a student of the game. He does it all exactly the way the coaching staff wants it. And I think this guy is going to be a great quarterback for Nebraska next year when he becomes a starter.
Well, he's going to get pushed by freshman Bobby Newcomb for that starting position. That's going to be quite a battle. London wrapped up in the backfield by Damian McIntosh. McIntosh is a kid that starts at D-tackle tonight, and 3 weeks ago he started at offensive tackle.
I know, and in high school he was a first baseman on the baseball team. So can you imagine that big old guy standing on first base, being the first baseman? I wonder if he could hit the curveball.
He tilted the field.
He tilted the field. He tilted the field on this one. He does a really nice job here of penetrating up the field and getting to Frankie London before he can get the option going. Now that's not fair though. That big old guy falling on little Frankie.
Frankie needs some help there. Inside 6:15 to go in the fourth. Nebraska 48-20. London out of the gun. And this pass is going to fall harmlessly to the turf at Nebraska. You know what? The trend has been to go to natural grass around the country, but they won't change things, I don't think, here in Lincoln.
Well, and they shouldn't. Number one, it helps their team speed. If you're an option team, you want to have artificial turf because I think it helps your speed. Number two, it helps the pass rush and the defensive speed of Nebraska. Right now, only 3 teams that I know of, Colorado, Washington, and Nebraska, 3 teams that are, top 20 schools, so to speak, have artificial surface. A lot of teams have gone to grass, Drew, because of recruiting, because there's an injury factor that's greater on an artificial surface. But as a defensive coach, I love artificial surface.
Bill LaFleur, backup punter, in for Cush. And that's not a bad punt. Caught by Allen, and he is erased almost immediately downfield. Making the play was Vanderbosch, number 83. 48-20 our score, 5:55 to go in the fourth. We shall return right after these messages on FX. Ball on FX is brought to you by GTE, the official telecommunications consultant to the NCAA. We're in the state capital of Nebraska. And tonight in Lincoln, the Huskers have rolled again. They're up by 4 touchdowns. Kansas State, Bishop still at quarterback. Throwing it down the middle, that's intercepted downfield. Still with the football is Walker. Joe Walker, one block and he could get in. Oh, baby, what a return that was. 71 yards for Walker.
put him at tailback.
Freshman from Arlington, Texas, the third-team Rover.
Boy, Michael Bishop, he really takes a beating. Gets knocked down once, gets held, going to try to make the tackle, falls down. Boy, that's a tough throw, and it's a tough play after the throw for poor Michael Bishop.
The left-footed Ted Retzlaff, a senior, and this one is botched. And Frankie London will scramble to the turf. So the the one-point conversion is no good. 54-20 the score. Let's go downstairs. Greg Bell has a happy couple with him, or a happy individual, we should say.
Well, I got two individuals. We'll start off with the dad here. Larry Frost, father of Scott Frost. Larry, what kind of performance were you expecting? And is this everything you were expecting from Scott when he transferred from Stanford?
Oh, I think so. We're just real happy for the team and the fact that they won a couple big games in a row and headed in the right direction.
All right, congratulations. Now on the other side, I've got to go to one of his other former coaches, Carol Frost, his mother. Has Scott been on the phone with you trying to get some coaching tips the way you led him to a state championship in the shot put?
Well, he doesn't throw the shot put this time of the year, and he's got a pretty darn good coach in Tom Osborne, so he doesn't need my help at all.
Well, congratulations to both parents. They've got a great son, a great quarterback. Take it upstairs.
All right, his mom was on the 1968 U.S. Olympic team. She was a discus thrower. She won a gold medal in '67 at the Pan Am Games. Used to be the head track coach for the women here at Nebraska. And we mentioned she still coaches track at Wood River, and she's the receivers coach for Larry, her husband.
Well, that's great. I've never heard of a female receiver coach in high school, and I'll bet you she's a good one because she's got a coaching background, and what a great family he comes from. And now I kind of know why everybody was upset when he left Nebraska and went out to Palo Alto and Stanford, because these people are part of Nebraska heritage.
That's right. They probably took a lot of grief every Saturday when they came to Memorial Stadium.
Well, they just couldn't get in. They just wouldn't let them in.
54-20, 5:34 left in the football game after the missed extra point. And now Tom Osborne rumbling a little bit because his kickoff team didn't have enough guys on the field. And I think one of the reasons that they didn't have enough guys and had to call a timeout is they probably have their third kick team.
Well, that's exactly right. But the other day at practice, he drilled this situation where the third and the fourth kickoff team were called out on the field and practiced kickoff coverage. So I was standing right next to him when he was doing it. So, you know, it's something that they prepared for. They probably prepare for each week. But you are so right. A young guy gets his first shot at going out there. Sometimes he forgets, or a guy is hurt and the backup doesn't replace him. So it gets complicated when you get down to your third and fourth kickoff team.
Well, you heard our conversation with him at halftime. He talked about the pride of playing football at Nebraska and the fact that they're the only show in the state. And up the middle for a decent gain on the kick return is Gerald Niesman, who had a couple of big returns early. You play at Nebraska, you might have to wait your turn to get on the field. But generally speaking, you will get a turn at some point because they win so many games by big margins. And so you might be 17B. That might be your uniform number because there's 17, 17A. You might be the third number 17.
Well, yeah, but you're going to, like you said, you're going to eventually play. But believe me, the coaching staff from Nebraska prepares every player that suits up for a game to get ready to play somewhere during the year. And it was very impressive the other day when I was out here. There had to have been 150 guys suited up for practice. And like I said, when you start practicing your third and your fourth kickoff coverage team, you know you've got a lot of depth in all positions.
That's John Zadiska, senior from East High School here in Lincoln. His older brother Rob, a terrific lineman for the Huskers, now with the New York Giants. He, Rob, and his other brother Steve, all high school valedictorians. How about that for a family? Bishop goes down. He was sacked. Brandon Drum was in there.
You know, I'm surprised here now that Kansas State is trying to throw the ball too much, but that last scoring drive was very impressive by Michael Bishop. 84 yards, he had 32 rushing, 18 yards passing. Let him run the ball a little bit more and get this offensive running game going for Kansas State. They've got 73, 74 yards already tonight. Trying to get 100 and break the streak.
Out of the gun, he'll drop back into his own end zone. Now they run the shuttle, and Hickson is wrapped up. 96. That's Steve Warren, sophomore from Springfield, Missouri. They just keep rolling players out there, and they're all around. Used to be mentionable when you were 300 pounds. Now you kind of blow it off.
Yeah, and you know about Warren that the coaches were telling us the other day, he looks like a fire hydrant is what Charlie McBride said about him. His body fat percent is 13%, which is amazing for a guy that weighs 295, 300 pounds. So that guy's been in the weight room too.
Third down and half an acre for Kansas State. And whistles come in. And there was still time on the play clock.
Dead ball, false start offense, 5-yard penalty, half the distance. Repeat, third down.
Right now, Kansas State would like to pack their bags and get back on the bus. Here's an interesting fact. You know, playing in the junior college ranks, you bus wherever you play, especially in the Jayhawk League. He's only been on one flight as a college football player. That was the opener to Northern Illinois because they bussed last night from Manhattan. It's only about a 2.5-hour drive. Give you an idea of the inexperience for this club. Ball's on the ground. Did Kansas State get it back? It'll either be 2 points or 6 points.
A fumble on the play.
2 points.
It looked like Bishop hit the hip of the back when he was handing it off. Again, he's an excited young man here. Sometimes he does things too fast. He hits Hickson's elbow. He hits the elbow. The ball was handed off too high. And those are the little things that he missed during spring ball. The handoff skill, the footwork on running plays. Very, very little things that make you a good quarterback or an average quarterback. And obviously he looked average on that one, but those are the little things that experience will give this young man in terms of making him a complete quarterback. And obviously he's not very happy about it.
I'll tell you what, Carlos Polk, even if the exchange was made, may have produced a safety on the play because he was already in the backfield ready to wrap up Hickson.
Yeah, they got some great penetration on that, and you've seen some backup players now for Nebraska that are going to go in there and they want to prove their worth and say, hey, I deserve my scholarship, and someday I want to be part of that starting unit here at Nebraska, especially on defense, the black shirts. So you're going to get guys, even though they're second teamers, Drew, really playing hard in the final 3 or 4 minutes of the game.
27-0 in his college career coming in. It'll be 27-1, and though he's disappointed, 27-1 is a pretty good record. And if you look at Kansas State and the schedule they have the rest of the way, they're at home the next couple of weeks. Missouri, Texas A&M come a-calling, 2 pretty good football teams. Larry Smith has the Tigers on the rebound, but Kansas State does not have a team left that they don't match up with.
Oh, absolutely. And that man, Bill Snyder and Ron Hudson and Stoops and all the coaches on this staff, I think are excellent coaches. They've done a great job so far of guiding this football program. They've got a young team. They've recruited well, and they're going to have nothing but a very bright future, which they've had a bright past the last 9 years, so they'll be fine. But don't let this game lose the next game for you.
Kenny Cheatham from the 14-yard line. To the 36-yard line goes Cheatham, and we go downstairs to Greg Bell again. Greg.
Guys, I think one thing we learned tonight is, of course, the AP and the UPI didn't start the season looking at Nebraska, but I'm sure after this week they'll start talking about Nebraska as a possible national championships. On the other side of the field, look for Kansas State to learn one thing from this. They're young, they're inexperienced, but they gained a lot of knowledge out of this game, and I expect them to come back and be a contender in the Big 12.
All right, Greg, thank you. Nebraska came into this game number 3, Kansas State at number 17 in the AP poll. Frankie London showing his wares. He got 10 yards there. Frankie London once ran a 10, 500 meters.
He looks like he can run it. And, you know, speaking of the poles, I think now is when the poles start to take shape. As you see Frankie London trying to wiggle his left leg loose there. But the poles don't mean anything at the beginning of the year, Drew. Now, after you played 4 or 5 games and people know what kind of football team you have, or when the poles start to mean something.
Now the Orange Bowl has to be pleased. Nebraska might be playing in the national championship game in the Orange Bowl. Good news, Corral Buckhalter
Dan Alexander
is in the game, but that was Dan Alexander, 38, not 36, actually. Casey Weirman made the stop. Dan Alexander, a redshirt freshman from Wentzville, Missouri. There's 38. He's a 250-pound I-back. And he runs, we keep mentioning time, he runs 4.5 in the 40. That's unfair, Coach.
And he's got big arms, too, and he looks like a linebacker, believe me.
4th I-back in the lineup, Alexander. Well, he took a shot. Shooting through the hole, number 48 for Kansas State is Shelby Weirman, who is the younger brother of Casey Weirman. Shelby is a sophomore from Derby, Kansas. Casey is a senior. Both are linebackers. There's Shelby. Of course, his brother Jeff was a defensive back at Kansas in the late 80s. Pretty good player also.
And both brothers said they modeled themselves after a linebacker by the name of Mike Singletary. He used to play for the Bears.
A good guy to model yourself after on and off the field. Frankie London to the 45. All you have to do is watch Nebraska, and you see why they're able to score so many points on even good football teams like Kansas State, because the 2s and the 3s and the 4s are starters at most programs.
Well, it's called depth, my friend. It's called depth. And they coach every player in this program exactly the same. While the second team is doing something, the third team is down at another end of the field executing the run game or the passing game. They coach every player as much as possible in this football program.
Alexander. And he's not going to go far. 44 making initial contact was Monty Beisel. He's a true freshman, a parade All-American. And they recruited 3 parade All-Americans this year at Kansas State. There's Beisel. He's so good they had to pull the red shirt off, and they wanted to red shirt him. But Mike Stoops went to Bill Snyder. He said, I need this guy. And they had never before recruited a parade All-American to Manhattan.
Yeah, and this guy is going to be the future of this defense here at Kansas State. He was the state high school discus and shot put champion. He's a motor player, very much like some of those guys at Nebraska, and they absolutely love him. I'll bet you he ends up starting before the year's over for Kansas State.
Bishop will tuck it up again toward the sideline, and Michael runs out of bounds after an advance of about 6 yards. He's still going strong. There's Mike Stoops on the right. 56-20, Nebraska with 1:12 to go.
You know, he's not going to be a happy guy, but he's got to take the positives of tonight and build on them. He's an emotional young coach, obviously comes from some great bloodlines in the coaching profession, but he will get this Kansas State defense playing exactly the way he wants it before the year's over.
2nd down and 4 with 1:13 left. Give it to Hickson. He explodes up the middle. And he's tackled from behind, but he gets it all the way to the 23-yard line. Clock stops as they move the chains. 1:05 to go. Let's take a look at Kansas State's remaining games in 1997. We talked about Missouri and Texas A&M. Then they go to Oklahoma and Lubbock to play the Red Raiders. Kansas, Colorado were really struggling this year at 2-2. Well, you never know. Kansas State might be able to win 9 football games again. Bishop end zone shot as a man. Touchdown, Darnell McDonald.
Complete to number 80, Darnell McDonald.
No, there's no quit number 7. 56-26. Little corner route, and he was wide open.
Wide open, but the score is obviously not going to be indicative of the way this game was played, but it's great poise by Bishop. He winds up, throws the football, puts it right on the money, and those are confidence passes for him here in the late stages of the game. Charlie McBride is not going to be a happy camper about all this, but Bill Schneider and Ron Hudson certainly are.
Slot to the top. Bishop going for 2. Oh, man. He got pinballed in. He was the salami in that sandwich. Ross Tessendorf hit him initially. 49 seconds left. 30-point lead for the Huskers. Coming up next on the East Coast, you will see in living color. And on the West Coast, you'll see the Fall Guy. Is that Lee Majors? Was he in the Fall Guy?
Don't you ever watch television?
You know what? I watch a little sports and I read. Does that sound good that I read?
No.
People don't buy that.
Lee Majors is a big football fan, man. He's a good guy. You better say you'll watch FX. I guarantee you.
You know what show I do watch? I watch NYPD Blue religiously. I love that show.
I do. I watch X-Files, NYPD Blue, and Miami Vice. I always wanted to be Crockett.
You always wanted to be Crockett?
Yeah, man. Absolutely. He was the best. He is the best.
Yeah, I never understood, on a officer's salary, on a detective's salary, he had a nice car, nice boat, great clothes.
Well,
I think he was taking money under the table.
No. You're cynical, man. He just worked hard.
We have another score from the Big 12 tonight. Texas Tech has defeated Baylor and Waco 35-14. So Spike Dykes gets a win. And Florida 56-7 over Arkansas. What they have done in the SEC has been remarkable.
Throwing the football, and Steve Spurrier's the guy leading the charge, but there's a lot of great coaches and outstanding football players in the SEC.
Gramatica kicks it to Kenny Cheatham, who has to back up out of the end zone. And it's 56-26 as we look at the Nebraska games left on the schedule. They go to Waco. Texas Tech, and on the road to Lawrence, Oklahoma, Missouri, Iowa State, and then what is normally the big showdown with Colorado. But Colorado can't move the football on offense.
You might want to add 2 games to that schedule there. One in San Antonio and then one in the Orange Bowl in Miami. Because I believe this football team will win in San Antonio and then they're going to play somebody in the Orange Bowl.
Well, earlier in the week, Tom Osborne said the toughest game we had remaining is Alexander blows through the hole to the 28. The toughest game he felt they had left was tonight against Kansas State. I know folks down in Boulder probably took that as a slight, but after losing to Texas A&M, Coach Osborne may be right.
Well, and again, I think part of it he was talking about was when you're playing certain teams. And, anything can happen early in the year. But he feels his Nebraska team, barring injury, of course, will get better and better and better as the year goes on, like it does every year. Artie
Montecristo in the game at quarterback, hands off to Alexander, and that should be the final snap of the game. A complete and thorough victory for the Huskers, the 3rd-ranked team in America. 56-26 over Kansas State, as Tom Osborne will meet his longtime friend Bill Snyder at midfield.
And for the 2nd time in a row now, first the Washington Huskies and now the Kansas State Wildcats. I think Nebraska has proven that they are a team that is on the ascend this year and are going to be competitors for the national championship when the season is over.
I know the Washington Huskies know that. I think Bill Snyder and the Wildcats realize that tonight. We'll come back to Lincoln right after this. Upstairs, I'm Drew Goodman. It was complete.
It was complete, and again, it should silence anybody that thought Nebraska wasn't on a roll. I was very impressed with the methodical way they went up and down the field, but I'm more impressed than anybody with Scott Frost. He is clearly the general of this great Nebraska offense.
And early, Nebraska did a great job again shutting down the running game and confusing Michael Bishop.
Yeah, I mean, when Nebraska says you're not going to run, they don't let you run. And until the game got out of hand, they had only rushed, Kansas State did, for only 20 yards. So, again, on the other side of the ball, the Nebraska defense also dominated this football game, Drew.
And we almost forgot Amon Green. He rushed for nearly 200 yards tonight, and it wasn't just option pitches. He got some hard, tough yards between the tackles.
Well, that's what everybody forgets about Nebraska. They do both. They run the option, they pitch the ball on the option, the quarterback keeps the ball. They also try to pound you inside with blast, power plays off tackle, and sweep. They do it all in this offense.
Could they make it 3 national championships in 4 years? Could be.